Yo, what's up, everybody? Today is my 1-year anniversary of podcasting, and to celebrate, I brought on Canada's best podcaster, Nick VonDub.
Fucking hey, baby.
This is A Moment with Jay.
I just wanted to hop on the mic and say, I know the world been a little chaotic and everything. I just wanted to check and make sure everything good in the hood, like sure, you know what I mean? Say out of the fam. Okay, let's get to work.
Did I say Vaughn?
What up?
I don't know. I wasn't even listening. I was so fired up, and in the moment, I was just rocking, dude. I didn't even hear what you said.
I was like, I'm trying to make it clear to say the right thing before, even though he clarified
that I don't give a fuck what you say.
We might have to move you in a little bit.
Oh, I gotta suck in.
Just
let me get in here.
Just because the
get nice. Oh, now you can see my pretty face. Look at that,
bro.
Gotta have that in there. Gotta have that in there.
So, me and Nick, we don't go back actually that far.
Feels like it goes back farther than it actually does.
And that's what it is. Me and him kind of hit it off out the gates, kind of same vibe, kind of. Love this dude. Love his. I can't wait to get into it.
Yeah. Me too.
He was telling me some shit before that we can't even tell y'all yet, which is even
we're cooking, baby. We're cooking,
bro. Stand-up comic, host of the Nick VonDub.
The VonDub cast. VonDub cast, baby.
Which I was a guest on.
Yes, you were.
A while
what
ago.
an episode.
Oh, holy shit. We talked and we covered so much.
Yeah.
And we could have went on forever.
Yeah, we did after the podcast kept going for a long, like so half the time we did the podcast, which was a long time. Yeah.
Also the host of Trish's Asylum, Gen Pop.
Yes, sir.
And there's a third thing.
The Panopticon, baby. The best part of the night.
Like
the best part of the night. Love it.
Where do we even start with you, man?
Wherever you want, baby.
Where we met was at the Moon.
Yes, sir.
Which is, for those of you who don't know, it's an underground cannabis club. Is that how?
Yeah, it's kind of, if you know kind of place. It's a really cool community. Like the building itself is special because it's just a cool place for people to come up. But what makes it special is the community, because it's this place for stoners essentially, right? And the good kind of stoners, the one that really love the community and want to come in and support something that's positive and is a good place, good energy, right? And because it's not on Google, if you look it up, if you Google the Moon right now, you won't have it unless you hear about it on here. It's only on Instagram. So it's basically just word of mouth, and they are just some really cool people that started it without a capitalistic goal in mind. Just wanted to create a cool place to create memories, and then the comedy community kind of found that. And in Canada, especially, like everywhere, and people think Alberta is an exception to this, but it's really not. You have to be very careful what you say on different stages all around Canada as comedians, which is a whole other thing we could probably do a 3-hour podcast on. But then you found a place like that where they are just so appreciative of the arts and appreciative of the art form of comedy, because the people that run it, specifically Trish, who is the namesake behind Trish's Asylum, just loves comedy so much and wants to do whatever is within her power to create a space for us to be open and say whatever we want, which is just amazing. So comedy had already lived there, but I was kind of a coward and didn't go through there. I don't know. I always was newer to weed, because I'm one of those like nerds that started smoking weed when it got like legalized, really. Like I smoked a little bit before that, and now I'm a huge stoner. I smoke all the time, but I never feel attached to the culture really, because I just feel like a poser and I don't know anything. I don't know anything about weed other than that I love it and like my relationship with it and like how much it's affected me.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I was really scared to go there at first, right? And I was also way newer to smoking weed at that time. Like now, after running shows there for a year, it's like, I don't know, I'm pretty old hat with smoking some dope and getting up on stage and stuff. But like at that time, so there was probably like a 3-month period where a bunch of comics were telling me to go, but one specifically, Nick McQuick, was on me. He's like, you're gonna love this place, you gotta come every Sunday. There's a Sunday show. I'm like, yeah, this Sunday something would come up. And then I finally went there one time and I was like, oh my god, this place is amazing. Like, where has this place been my whole life? And then I was weekly there, every Sunday show. Just, if I could get on the show, great. If not, I just like being there and hang out. It was such a good energy, such good people that come through. You meet cool people like yourself, right? And then I just really immediately was like, oh, I'd love to run a show here. But again, I was newer to comedy, and there's some really weird dynamics within stand-up of like how long you've done it and what you're like allowed to do when you're new to comedy and stuff. And there's a lot of like kind of people that will look at you sideways and stuff. So I never wanted to ask, but then just got to know Trish more, and she was like, would you ever want to run a show here? And just, it's been just history after that, because we just went at it whole hog. And to find someone where I was running shows other places, but you're running at a bar who they want people to come in, but they don't really love comedy, right? You're just kind of putting something on, and that's cool. And we created some really amazing things there. But then to find a place that cares about the show just as much as you do and wants to put just as much effort, like I put in effort every week just to message people on Instagram, get them out to the shows. But the venue is also doing, like Trish is sitting at home doing that same thing. And then to combine those forces and to see like what kind of shows we've been able to put on and how we've been able to grow them has just been nuts. And then get people coming through like you, and you get to know them, and then you do a podcast and you connect. And it has been such a cool source, not only for like stage time and growing me as a comic, because they allow me to go there every Friday from 8 p.m. to like 4 a.m. where I'm on stage and just get unbelievable stage time as like a I think I was maybe like a year into comedy when I started there. And if you're going to get, 8 hours of stage time in a night, that is invaluable. You cannot find that anywhere else. And I like to believe it made me a different comic, and has allowed me to really, it has allowed me to, maybe hasn't like given me a ton of opportunity because it is kind of its own separate thing. But the opportunities that I have been able to earn with that skill set, I've been able to knock out of the park because I'm so much more confident. I have such a different stage presence because I'm not as scared, because the first couple of years of comedy is just, and probably music too, on stage, at least live, it's just getting over that fear of what you're doing, right? And just those reps of like getting up there and that alone, and also forcing yourself to write, because I have a weekly show with a regular audience that's going to be there every week. I don't want to do the same jokes, so it forces me to write every week. And it's just been, that place is really affected me, and it's such a cool place. And it's so cool that like, even though there's already such an amazing community, it's just scratching the surface of like how many cool people in Edmonton would love this place. They just don't know it exists yet. And that's all but we don't want to go the old school way and just, blast it out. And cause then you lose that you lose what it is.
What that special
so you so you kind of have to grow it in that organic way, and it is growing that way. And sometimes you get frustrated of like, oh, I just want it to be packed out every night and not have to spend 10 hours a week messaging people to get out a good audience for a show. But it's like, well, if that's the effort we got to put in, and then when you do get maybe a show somewhere else where there's a little bit less barriers to entry, maybe a little bit more walk-in traffic, and it's institutionalized for comedy, all those skill sets are just going to pass on, right? I like to think of it as working with ankle weights, right? If you have to message everyone, get them over this like fear of this, okay, I have to get a door code and I have to go to this warehouse. Like once everyone comes once, they love it and they'll come back again. But that barrier to entry to get people in the door is very heavy. But it's like,
I guess so.
Yeah, but as like a showrunner, what is gonna teach you the skills of putting asses in seats better than that, right? And then on top of that too, you're doing stand-up comedy, which is traditionally an art form done for inebriated people, and now you get them all stoned, and now they're on this fucking that like weed mind meld thing where they can tell genuineness from a mile away, and you get comics up there in the most insecure people in the most insecure art form, and it's like working with ankle weights. But then you do that for a long time, and you go in front of a stone crowd and you know how to get them. Then you go to the comic strip and everyone's drunk and it's sold out, and you
crush it.
You just crush it. Right? Yeah. It's like working with ankle weights, but a lot of comics are scared of that. They don't even want to. I'm sure they have other reasons, at least consciously, that they put out of why they don't like to work there and stuff. But a lot of it just comes down to that fear. But I don't know. You see the people that go and use that space the way it's meant to be used, and come every Friday and do a spot on the Asylum, do a spot on Gen Pop, and then stay on Panopticon and riff with the funniest people in Edmonton till 4 a.m. Those are the ones that get better.
Of course. That's just reps in, time invested.
Yeah, 100%.
Comedy is, and I know comics say this, and people say this all the time, but as also a performing artist, comedy is different than every other art form in the sense that you need to do it live in order to improve.
Yep.
It's like, as a musician, it's like Kendrick Lamar will go away for 5 years and come back and be better than ever, But a comic, you have to, and how do you, that's one thing that's insane. I'm a big fan of even the shows like Kill Tony, and it's like, and their regulars are doing 1 minute. It's like what you're doing is more, I guess, essentially being Tony, and where you're coming in and you're running the show every week. And how do you keep it fresh, dog? What is the
There's so many things in there to address. One, I just want to jump back to the first thing you said about like that live thing, because you're right. Singers can practice, they can go away, work on stuff, and then bring it to the stage. Painters the same way. But also there's another weird aspect to it of like the very first time, because like if you're a singer, you can practice singing all you want until you're ready, and then when you're ready to take it to the stage, you can take it to the stage. Same with where you bring your art to some gala or something. You've been painting for a long time. With stand-up, you can't start until you get up. Like the only way to do it is live. So like that first time, that's what makes the first few years so wild, and why everybody sucks when you start stand-up, because there's no other way to do it than to just start and suck. Right. So like that's another weird aspect to it.
Unreal.
But then going to like running the shows, it is such a different aspect, and that's something I think we talked a little bit before we started about. There's so many different aspects that go into it, because there's show running, there's hosting, and there's comedy, right? When you're just doing comedy, you're just doing a spot. It's always scary. It's always intimidating, because it just the risk factor that you're going up there of how bad it feels to do bad on stage in front of people. Like it's public speaking on steroids, right? Just getting up in front of people is always going to be terrifying. Just evolutionary. We have it inbuilt to us that this is important. Don't fuck this up. You're in front of the tribe, right? Like there's that fear.
So, before you elaborate on that, how do you feel now going up on, like, you know, your show on Friday? What are you feeling moments before you go on now?
And it definitely, it depends on the show. It depends what my role is on the show. Am I just doing a spot? Am I hosting? Is it my show? Right? So there's a bunch of different things. Always fear. You're always scared, right? Like there's always that. And I have done a lot of practices to balance that. Like if I have a big show, usually I'll show up hour and a half early. An hour before the show, I'll take my alpha brain. I'll go sit down. I'll do a meditation for probably 20 minutes, just throw on some fucking jungle sounds and just some breathing.
Like at the spot.
Yeah, I'll go find somewhere in the back. I'll go hide in the tunnels of the comic strip, or go out in my truck, and I'll just, just try and empty, right? And then after that, I usually do a little gratefulness practice, right? Because mindset is so important going on stage. You're just like, if you let that fear get to you and you go up scared, the audience can feel it right away. They lose trust, and you won't do as good as you would have before. Sometimes you can find it in the moment, right? Sometimes being scared can be endearing, right? But for especially how I do comedy specifically, I need to be confident. I need to be going into that with that mindset. And I find that a gratefulness practice helps, right? It just, it's usually just the basics, right? I'm so thankful for my parents for raising me the way they did, and for like I get so much of my humor in my heart from my dad and my mom. I'm so thankful to have people like my sister that support me, my friends, right? Usually like the institution, like the Moon, Trish, and just like remember all those things. Get yourself into a positive mindset of like, and also just telling yourself you've worked really hard at this. You're skilled at this. I know it's scary, but like you go into this every time, you feel these feelings every time, and you're going to find magic up there if you're in the mindset for it, right? Like, even though you might be like, oh, I don't know what jokes to do, I'm so unprepared, right? Like all those thoughts, but like just knowing no matter what, you're good at this and you have that talent, right? And like just getting yourself in that mindset. Then I throw on a pump up song. For a while it was Womp Portal by Ganja White Knight. That was a big one for a while. Yeah, that one just got me fired up. I don't know, I liked it. It was that visual that they have, like the music video of like, I don't know, this is so nerdy, but like it just goes into like this whole like, it's kind of like a war thing. Okay. And it was such like just this amazing song with this amazing visual. I just watched all the time. Always got me fired up. Cool. And then like when I'd listen to it, I'd like remember like like when you feel music that like has a story like that, kind of like along with a music video, it kind of takes you along that ride. And like, I really like that ride. And this is so fucking nerdy, but like have kind of like for a while there, I'd kind of like reformed that for like comedy of like the storyline of the song, but like how like what my comedy journey is like what I'm doing with that. Recently it's become Deutschland by Rammstein, and that's what I listen to, so it has switched. Right? Okay. But like all this stuff is like sports shit for me. Oh, it's not me. I'm a professional podcaster. My shit's on silent, baby. But a lot of that for me is like sports stuff. Cause like recognizing it, like when I started comedy, I didn't know what I needed. Right. And like I knew I had tools like meditation because I did that long before I did comedy. But I didn't really know how to institute it and to make it work. But I found myself before shows very much reminded of hockey and like the feelings I would get before hockey. And I would always be kind of bouncing around, shaking it out, right? Stretching and stuff. And I was like, oh man, like the only skill set I have that's somewhat translate, because comedy is so unique, nothing's going to translate 100%. But like the thing I found closest was like, before sports, right? Like, what do I do to get into the right mindset before sports, right? And like being a little bit fired up. So game time, right? So like that's kind of my process for. I don't do that for every show, right?
Different vibes.
Different vibes, right? If I'm just doing a 5-minute guest spot somewhere, you know, I'll write a few jokes in my hand and jump up there and just fucking fling it, right? And like, and that has become much more now that the fear isn't the same, right? Like it's always scary, but like it gets less scary every time. It never goes away, and you're always having new things that are pushing you outside your comfort zone. Maybe you're doing a little bit extra. Maybe you're doing 30 minutes and you've only done that a few times, or you're doing this big show for yucks or something. And there's always that fear that kind of keeps you honest, of like, you never get away from it if you're growing in that way, right? I think you see a lot of people stagnate and just do the shows that don't scare them, and
of course,
right? And that's a big issue. But as long as you're pushing yourself, you'll always have that fear kind of catching up to you. So that's kind of my process before shows. I don't even know if that's what you asked, but kind of
actually exactly what.
Yeah, okay. but you would also ask a question about like the Kill Tony thing and like how to like
stay fresh
and all that, like, because it is very different. Like the three aspects of like comedy, hosting, and showrunner. Like, and I started with comedy when you're just doing a spot, right? Because there's so much that goes into that, and that's complex, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
right. But it's just you. It's kind of, you know, most people, you don't have to think about the show. I'm always thinking about the show and what's going to make the show best, just because I come from it from like a team sports aspect. I want everyone to do well. I want to set it up for other people. I don't want to mess up any energies for everybody else. And I find that's very unique to how I operate, but it's because I put a very high importance on learning to be a good host very early on. I started a show right before I ever started the shows at the Moon, to learn that skill of hosting, because hosting is much different than stand-up. You still have to be funny, but like most of your job is just to read the energy of the audience, keep them balanced. If someone does bad, kind of addressing it and resetting the energy, staying out of the way when someone does good, so you don't just mess it up. And you have to learn all those lessons, and you have to really care, right? And I find that is a very, very different mindset than just doing straight up comedy.
Of course.
And I find a lot of people don't get the reps to learn those lessons. So there's very few good hosts in my estimation. There's a lot of good comics that can like are so good at comedy that they can do the hosting thing well. And a lot of them will say that, like a lot of like the best comics in Edmonton, like Brad Semituk and Simon Glassman, they don't like hosting. They're great hosts because they're such good comedians that it almost doesn't matter. They're in that role. Funny. They're just funny, right? And they will crush all the time. And they've also done it so long that they are like just like taking the comedy out of it and just like their skills as hosts. They are also good at that, but they don't put. That's not what they're doing. That's not what their passion. That's not their passion. That's not like what's driving them to be better. So it doesn't grow in the same way where I love it. I take a huge passion. I love putting on a great show and hosting and setting everybody up and knowing like, oh, I just gave this guy great energy. I think he's going to do well. And he does well, right? Like that fires me up. I love that stuff. And I think that comes from team sports of like, I always was that guy, right? Like I wasn't when I played hockey, I was not the goal scorer. I was not the 90 assist season. You know, I put guys through the boards. I was great on the bench. I was the team guy, right? Yeah. I was the raw guy. I kept people together when people were getting down, right? Like that was always my role. And I love that. That's like kind of how I show leadership. And I love taking that into hosting. So I went into it getting tons of hosts. And then when I started those shows at the Moon where I'm hosting for 8 hours a night, that skill set started to really grow. And then there's a third aspect, which is show running. And that's a whole different aspect, right? Like that is like concentrating on how many people are in the building, selling tickets the week up, right? Worried about that. How are people going to be seated? Right? Is everyone going to hide in the back? No, you want everyone up front. You want the energies up front, right? Like if you have people that are there every week, regulars, and like the comics know that and they're going to get scared because they've seen their jokes before. Can you encourage them to sit a few rows back so they're not at least right in their face, right? Like so much goes into it. And then how strong is your lineup you booked, right? Because I put a ton into that of like, if I'm going to put this work and I'm going to put my name behind it to get everyone I know out to these shows, I want to make sure you're going to get a great show because comedy is magical, and like the live experience of going to see stand-up when done well is unmatched, right? Unreal. Maybe, you know, if you're going to see someone you really love do music, that is that same kind of mystical experience you can have. But like for you to walk in, not know any of the names of the comics and have like a wild magical night you remember the rest of your life is like something that you don't get a lot of places. And I feel like there's a huge disconnect, specifically in Canada. Apparently I haven't seen this as much, but in the States, because comedy kind of started there and there's more of a history within the culture for stand-up, it's a different thing there. But like when you go to a comedy show in Canada, odds are half that room, that's their first ever comedy show. Wow.
Wow.
Right. Like, and you go, so say we just had
I've brought people for the first time.
100%. Right. And if you just, and a lot of people don't think about it because, you know, say you had a room of 100 people and you go, oh, who likes comedy? Right. Probably most everybody, right? There's probably a few holdouts, but then you go, oh yeah, you love comedy. Like what's oh, I've seen, you know, Tom Segura on Netflix. Oh, have you ever seen a live show? That will cut that number down. Maybe 20 of them have been to a live show. Right. So like,
it's a totally different art form live.
Totally different art form. Completely different art form live and so much better. But people, until you go experience that, you don't know what you're missing, right? And specifically to Edmonton has an unbelievable comedy scene. Like the local comedy scene in Edmonton compared to Calgary, Vancouver, Toronto, like it is dynamite. And like I didn't realize, I thought everyone was just talking shit when I started. I thought it was just typical like Edmonton kind of, oh, Calgary sucks, right? But then you said, oh no, like we work really hard. We have great shows, and like our environment is so toxic and it's so fucking childish and immature, and the feelings get hurt and stuff. Yeah. But compared to everywhere else, we are saints. And like, and that's tough for me because that's whatever I'd never experienced anything else. So I come in and I see all these issues and like, why are we acting like this? Why are we not coming together more? And everyone else is like, either you hear two things. Well, you should have seen it 10 years ago, or have you seen anywhere else? Right. And I'm like, fair point. And that is good to stay gracious for what we have and appreciate it. And that is amazing, but also
not to be satisfied.
Not to be satisfied. Exactly. Like, but we can do better than this, right? Like we can be more mature and we can support each other more, and we can try to put on even better shows and encourage the new guys and encourage those people that are in other scenes chasing what they think is there to come back here and help join what we're doing. Right. And like, it's it's fascinating. I didn't realize I was so obsessed with comedy before I ever started it. Like I wanted to do comedy my whole life. I was just obsessed with podcasts. I was so down the rabbit hole and I thought I knew so much. And then you get into it and it's like, oh, I know nothing. This is completely different than what not completely different, because I do feel so thankful for like Joey Diaz or like his podcast, Church of What's Happening Now. If you're a young comic and you've listened to like the majority of that, just like the lessons from the road, from him starting comedy and stuff, I was so prepared. But it's also wild, like, and this is just like more of a microcosm of life, of like, it's one thing to know where the pitfalls are going to be and a whole nother not to just fall into them anyway. Like you think like knowing what the pitfalls are and hearing about them from like these pro comics is going to do something. No. And then you just like, it just makes it funnier when you fall into it anyway. Right. Like, yeah, I knew this would come. I knew this was going to be an issue, and oh fuck, I'm right in this hole again. Let's pull myself out and laugh. Right.
Fuck. Yeah, absolutely. Because you hope that hearing from, because it happens the same thing. There's so many parallels, obviously, because it's still a live art form between the music and the comedy. But I always have this like pedestal of live performance, and comedians are up there, you know, because it's like, and you hear it all the time. It's cliche after cliche, but it's like, as a musician, I can hide a lot of the show in the music. You know, a lot of what I'm doing is just the songs that are coming out, you know, and then there's the act of the, but it's like, if you have a good enough song, the song will carry. You know, there's artists like Jelly Roll, who's brand new. You ever see one of his live shows? He stands there and he just performs the song. Adele stands there and she's talented enough that there's nothing else needs to go on because the songs are good. Her vocals are so good, and you can see that with comedians. It's and even I mean, there's obviously physical comedy where very few stand-up comedians incorporate that style of comedy live, which is an entertaining form when you do get to see it every once in a while. But to stand with just a microphone in front of a group of strangers, where some of the best jokes are gonna piss off or trigger or most of probably the audience at most times, especially in the like climate that we're still in, you know. People thought that this was going to be a bubble, but it looks like it's really here to stay. You know, this is the
do feel that way,
and I say all of this because it's cool from my perspective as a musician. I've done a lot of shows where, you know, there's a musician on the bill, and it's like a bunch of comedians and then a musician. It's like, I just feel like being a musician in a plethora full of comedians, it feels different. Like you do feel like the different one. It's like a group of, and it's way doper to hang out with a group of comedians than it is with a group of musicians.
Yeah.
And
I can imagine.
Musician, you know, it's like, man, it's like the conversations these motherfuckers are having all the time. And there's so many points. I'm almost getting lost.
It happens to me all the time, baby. Lost in sauce.
There's so much. Let's go back to you for a second.
Maybe I was just going to do the opposite thing. I was like, man, I talk forever. I want to bring it back to you.
We talk about me for. I guess actually, let's go back to where we first met, and so we talk about you doing the show. Actually, you know what? Let's touch on this last part before we move on. How do you keep it fresh still?
Oh, right.
So when you're doing it, that was great because yes, you're a multi-dimensional part. People don't, I think, understand. Let me stress to the audience, because you know you're saying a lot of things, and I understand. I've put on shows. I've put on a lot of my own shows. I stack people on my bill. There's a lot of crossovers that you actually said when you were speaking that I was like, oh, maybe that's where I get that from, because you talk about team sports. I played team sports. I coached, as you heard. I coached for many years actually. I coached women's volleyball. I coached basketball. Whatever. And I'm intense, but when I'm doing shows and I've taken a break, I'm actually this week. Well, when this comes out, it would be last week.
Yeah.
This week will be my first show back in a long time. I've been saying no to a lot. I had a bad experience doing my own show.
I think we talked about that when we did my podcast.
So it's like I've taken a long break. Just been working on. I've been working more on the sync placement of music and finishing up albums. I got about 3 albums on the way now that will all kind of roll out at the same time. And growing my online presence. YouTube's been my main thing, you know, became
main
a
squeeze.
Partner. It's growing, so it's like
that's dope, dude.
Big thing,
that's huge.
So it means a lot when you come through, and you know, I think the audience will really enjoy this and all the
sure they will.
Come out. It'll be But so the one thing you said about being a host, because that's one thing. It's like when I remember when before I was doing shows. There was a couple, and actually the Moon is one of the places that treats me so well when I do perform. You know, and there's something about going and being cherished as the talent, you know?
100%. And they do an amazing job with that there,
They do so, and I remember doing shows, my last couple shows, you know, it's like I really make sure that all the artists have the writers fulfilled, you know, I got food for everyone, I got drinks, towel, I got everything for everybody so that you can just come, chill out, kill the set, you know? And I never thought about, because I'm a team player, you know, it's like, I know I win if we all win, you know, and it's like, it's going to take all of us winning for this to be a successful thing, you know, and that's such a cool aspect of, I never thought about all of my years of team. I never play hockey, my twin brother, but I don't even know how to skate. I'm not a hockey motherfucker, but all my years of basketball, volleyball, all of that really, because I remember being a younger musician and being envious of others, you know, and it's like, well, if I'm fucking putting on a show, I'm gonna throw my homies on, people that share my last song, fucking person who bought my and I was like, well, that doesn't make them the most talented. That doesn't make them the most entertaining.
But it's such an easy trap to fall into in comedy. That's all it is. It's who's my buddy? Who can get me other spots? Who can that? But like, that's death to comedy. You're trying to put on magic. It's disrespectful to the art form to not put the biggest killers. But then with comedy, there's this other aspect of like, can I follow these guys? Am I going to look bad? If I put all these killers on, am I going to look bad? Am I going to be the shittiest guy on the show? And that scares a lot of people, especially like road work of guys who have worked for a long time to get these connections in these small towns, these shows, and they don't want to bring some new young guy that might steal it from them. Oh, we like this guy better. Can you come do the show? So people insulate, bring guys they know will do just good enough where it doesn't hurt the show. Yeah, there's so much insecurity that goes into it. Of
course, and it's ego, because it's ego. It's like, because it's I couldn't imagine, because at the end of every song that a person, unless you fucking you do something to the audience,
Yeah.
people will clap when the song's
Yeah,
over.
yeah.
You know, people
Yeah.
will be like,
Mhm.
all right,
Mhm.
at least you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But not with, and honestly, it's one of my favorite parts of being a fan of comedy is when someone is up there and they're failing. Not because they're failing. As you know, I'm not like, I'm not evil, you know, but I'm like, okay, this guy now has seen hell. This guy has now witnessed.
It's a human experience, and like the audience is with it too. And like that's the weirdest thing about it too is doing poorly can go so many different ways. If you're on stage and like you're just like feeling it and it's awful and the audience can feel that this is bad and they can feel your pain, they'll come for that ride and like everybody feels it, right? If someone goes up there, bombs, and just like doesn't care, says wild shit, and like doesn't show to the audience any contrition for what you're making them feel, of like them feeling the bomb, then they'll start to hate you.
Yeah.
Right. And then it's like, yeah, that's when you get nothing, right? Like if you go up there and you're nervous and you're trying, in Canada, most audiences will give you the little pity laugh, the little claps, and they'll clap at the end, right? If you act correctly on stage. But then you see guys that like, and it's all out of just trauma response to how bad bombing feels. You will come up with all these different ways to not show it and to not feel it, but it takes you out of that genuineness. And that's all comedy is a genuine connection between you and the audience, that I'm feeling this and I'm taking you guys along for the ride. But when you disconnect that, right? Or when you put it on them, like, oh, fuck you guys, like you're not laughing, right? Like there's so much. And then some comics can bomb and make it hilarious where they're like, oh, fuck, this sucks. Like I'm bombing. I tried that, right? And that's a skill set they have too.
Masterful.
Right? It is masterful. And someone, and it's such a tool. And then, but everything's double-sided with comedy, because then you can lean into that and you can go too far for that, where now you're not bringing the right confidence and you're so willing to jump out. Like I struggle with that of like, I'm very good at something doesn't work jumping out, but I can kill the trust of an audience with me if you do that too much, where you're just like, oh yeah, you guys hated that, you hated that, and then, okay, we do hate this and you suck. Right? Like, and I've been there. Exactly. Right. So like it's always this double-edged sword,
balancing act.
100%. Staying genuine, but like portraying confidence and staying connected to the audience, because also when things start to go wrong, you shell up, your walls go out, you start to sweat, right? And you're just looking for like, what joke is going to get me out of this, and you lose connection with the audience, and they feel that too, right? It's like, how can you remain? And that's what I find so important about meditation, of just like getting into that like that like empty state of like going up there where you are calm and not going to be rocked by anything, right? If you kind of go up with like the hardships of the day, maybe your old lady was mean to you or something, right? And you go up there, it's going to affect you, right? But if you can come into it with a mindset where like, even if something does go wrong, you're still confident, you can have that space where you just don't shut down, you stay connected, right? Because like, that's all it is like, don't let the fear disconnect you and shut you down, right? Just stay connected to the audience. Because as soon as you lose touch with the audience, and some guys, that's just their burden to bear for the first couple of years, because they just don't have that confidence yet to connect with an audience. So they'll do kind of what it was interesting hearing you talk about like having the song carrot, and you'll find some guys just lean on their writing and they won't even like look at the audience. They're looking past them and they're just writing their jokes, and I just go through them, right? And they have the insulation of like, oh, these jokes have worked before. If they don't like them, like that's okay, right? It's all little tricks to make you not feel the full totality of how fucking terrible it feels to bomb on stage. It is, oh, I cannot even explain to you how shitty it feels. So like, it's tough for me because like, I see all these guys have these stupid bullshit defense mechanisms for them to not feel it. And it's like, I totally get that. Like, this sucks. I know you don't want to feel this, but like, you're not going to get better, or you're going to get better slower than you would if you just felt it, went through it, and then took that, right? Because if you're making excuses like, oh, these jokes work for, they just didn't like that, this is a bad audience, there's so many lessons left on the table. Well, what did you do wrong? What could have you done better? Right? And you see that a lot. Whereas like me, I'll have sets that like, if it was 6 months ago, I'd be really happy with it. I'm fucking furious. And like, that sucked. I sucked. That wasn't good. But it's like, oh, you're still like one of the top 2 or 3 comics on that show. Like, you didn't do bad. And it's like, I know, but my standard, right?
Which is huge.
Right?
Which is huge.
And then now when I do like bomb actually bad, which doesn't happen all the time, but like fucking the last time I was furious. I came out of the mood, fucking whipped my notebook down, like, and embarrassed afterwards, right? Out the door, went for a walk, come back, sorry, shouldn't freaked out, right? You're embarrassed about it, but like, again, that's who I am as a person. That's the sports I'm fired. I want to do good, right? I'm not mad at the show. I'm mad at me.
Yeah.
I fucked this up. I could have been better. I failed up there, right? Like, I'm just mad at myself, right? But it's tough with anger, because even though you know this should not affect anybody else, anger just, and so many people have different triggers with anger and what they feel when they see it. You have to be very careful with it, because you can unintentionally hurt people with it, right? Like,
of course.
Yeah, I remember. don't know if I can be able to pull this story and make it connect, but I feel like I remember in university one time, like learning that lesson really hard
Okay.
of like not knowing how somebody's like past and like trauma with stuff of like, I think it was an ex, like had done something really heinous. Like I was fully in my rights to, I just found out that she like cheated like with a guy and stuff, and like came back to my room and I was like, what do you do? Get out of here. Like, I don't want to see you. Like, and just like wouldn't leave, she was drunk, and I was like studying for a test. I'm like, just leave me alone. And like, just push me to the final. Like I yelled and was like, get out of here, which don't feel good. I shouldn't have yelled. And like, she just started crying. I was like, oh, like what's going on and stuff. And just like heard her story, like how anger affects her and like what she had seen and stuff. And I was just like, oh shit. Like I didn't know that. Like I felt pretty, like I'm still justified in what I feel, but I wasn't trying to make you I didn't realize how that was going to come through and connect with you. And it's just like, oh shit, I feel fucking terrible. And like ever since then I've been, I feel like that really changed me of like how I let my anger has always been something I've struggled with my whole life.
We talked about
for sure. And like probably told you this of like weed helped a ton. And has chilled me out so much and just like has me where I take that second of like, I still get mad from time to time, but I find I have a much longer fuse, right? Still, when I do get mad, it's pretty uncontrollable and it can, get out of hand. But luckily I needed all those years of being so out of control with it, because it teaches you like what to do when you do fuck up and how to get yourself back under control, and you have all those things. And now it happens less, which is amazing. Beautiful. But even when it does happen, I'm so much better at like when I fucking threw my elbow and went out, I knew go for a walk, do some deep breaths, like fucking get your emotions under control. Cause I'm a crier too. And I get really emotional. Like if I'm angry or sad, happy, I cry all the time. Right. Like that's just who I am. But like going out there and be like, I can feel myself starting to tear up and so I was like, what are you doing, man? Like just get yourself under control, take some breaths, you're fine. Beautiful. That happens, right? Like it's just but like for the rest of the night you're still fucked up because you just once that boils over, right? Like you're gonna have some like physiological consequences of that. But yeah, it's a journey. I don't even know how I got into that.
But this is great because I really wanted to just stress the incredible hustle that it is that you do, that like, we talked about the stand-up, the moments you feel before, what it's like to host and have everybody else there. And then there's the third part, and why I think this ties in with anger and feeling emotions. Sometimes you're stacking yourself up. And again, I know this because I've ran shows with musicians, and where the only thing that's different with running a music show as opposed to a comedy show is the technical end. You know, it's like making sure that it sounds like, okay, if we're going from a fucking rapper to a full band to a acoustic guitar, so, it's like, other than that, the sound guy is very vital at a fucking, while you can get away with just a microphone, and usually maybe somebody playing music, at a, but other than that, it's like, it's groups of people and managing. So you got the I don't want to say neediness, but you got the needs of the performers, you got the needs of the audience, you got the needs of the venue, you got your own needs, and you still you gotta crush for yourself, you gotta crush for the audience, you got to get asses in the seat, and you gotta make sure that it all goes well,
and people have a good time and you're welcoming them in, you're putting a good experience on. There's so much that goes into it.
There's so, and just the stress to anyone throwing anything, doing any one of those things is a lot and is extraordinarily stressful. Like, it's like when you see shows like fucking The Weeknd or whatever, they have teams of 50 people,
if not more.
If not, there's one person with a full team doing each one of those things. Just for people that don't have the background understanding of just how much goes in, and then to be hosting on a weekly basis, to be trying to bring in acts in a weekly basis, you trying to stay fresh on a weekly basis,
and you're booking comics who are the most flaky, like I can't make it, I can make it, but I'm doing another show, can you put me at the end, and you put so much effort into this line of, I want someone really good off the top to get them right, and then I want to insulate, maybe I'm putting a few people on the show that are a little bit newer or less strong, I want to insulate them, give them a nice energy going up, but not put something so they can't follow. You want to end it with a bang, you always want to leave people. So you put all this effort into it, and then like clockwork, every week someone will drop out.
Yep.
Someone will need to move around a spot. Like someone, like, it's just like I feel like also not a lot of comics do run those shows or do it, hate it, and give up. And they lack the respect. Like when I get booked on shows, wherever you need me, however much time you need, I'm a soldier. I want this to be good wherever you think I'm going to be best, right? Not a lot of people have that. And like that is frustrating too, along with everything else you said of like, you're already trying to put asses in seats, make sure texting people like, oh, I got the wrong address. So you're doing everything before the show, trying to remember. And like, I'm always trying to write, because we have regulars, thankfully, that come every weekend and want to say this. I want to give them something fresh. So I'm always trying to like write new stuff on that day and like remember what I'm going to do. Like I'm about to go up and try and do like 10 minutes of new shit off the top. And I'm also trying to just make sure fucking nothing's on fire before, right? Like, and that is difficult, stressful, but also forces so much growth. And I can feel myself. It's like, oh, but now other than that, like Rogan has been on a kick lately about like talking about doing hard things. Cause once you do hard things, it makes everything else easier in your life. Like, I don't know what has gotten up his ass, but man, he says it on every podcast for like the last 3 months. And, and he said it a lot before that, but fuck is he on a kick for it? But it is so true and instincts, and like just hearing it so much that like you see it of like that is so difficult, and there's so much of a mind fuck around it. And because such an aspect of what I try to do on those Fridays is create something really special for the community of like, I'm going to put on a great book show, right? From 8 to 10 with the best comics I can find. We're going to put asses in seats. We're going to give them amazing experience where they come in, they're set up for it, and they get greeted at the door. And this is experience. There's production, there's lighting changes. So they know they're like getting that out, and you get to do an amazing show, right? And then there's an open mic after it where a lot of the audience will stick around. A bunch of comics from other shows will now filter in, and you get to do more stage time in like kind of a more heckly environment. We mess around. There'll be comics on the stage and stuff. And you can grow from that so much, not only just from like the stage time you can get, but just from being in that room and trying to be funny and throw lines and stuff. You'll grow from that. And then the Panopticon is just that, like, no rules, all the funniest guys, whoever can be the funniest and dominate that room for the remaining hours before we shut it down. Like, that's what you get, right? Wow. And wild, absolutely wild. And like every time I just try and describe it, it's like, do we actually do this every week? And is it actually fucking magic every week? And it is, right? Like, but what's tough is to feel like this is so stressful. Yeah. This takes so much out of me. This is like consuming my life, and just how disrespectful and people can be, and just like, not give a shit, like walking out like talking in the back during the show, walking in and out, like just showing up whenever, bringing people, talking shit about the show during the show. Like, just, it's so, because I'm an emotional guy. I'm soft, right? Like I'm also pretty tough too. Like, don't get me wrong, but I'm a very, I've got a very strong divine masculine, divine feminine and I really appreciate that and work on that, to have that in myself and to be okay to feel what I'm feeling and stuff. And I find that is not very common, and there's not a lot of people that have even the understanding. Yeah, just in general. But then you add on to it the most insecure people doing the most insecure fucking crazy thing you can do, which is comedy. Yeah. And it just makes for this mix. So like, I love it. Don't get me wrong. It is the most amazing thing, but I'd be lying to you if I said it wasn't like just one of the most emotionally taxing, and like has been very tough on my life to live this lifestyle and to make this such a big thing. Right. And
of course.
Like,
and I was listening to your latest podcast.
Yeah.
Just check it out. Nick Von.
Hell yeah.
Dub's cast.
The VonDub cast, baby.
It's fantastic. Also because you have a good sounding voice.
Yeah, I've heard that from plenty of people, and I've never thought about it before. Never like
very listenable voice.
Except I talk at a fucking million miles a minute because I listen to podcasts constantly all day long. I listen to more podcasts than anyone on the planet. I will fight anyone on this, right? But it's always on like 2.5, 3 times speed. Oh yeah. So I'm taking in constant things, and then I just start talking that way. Especially when I get excited, I'm talking on. People are like, you say to like listen to podcasts sped up, but you talk so fast I can't speed it up. Word. Like the guest is on, like I can handle the guest at 1.5, but you is like fucking 3. Yeah,
that's so funny because literally because I do listen to podcasts at 2 times speed. And for you, I could only make it to, I think, 1.5. Yeah. Because I put it on 2 and I was like, wait, what the fuck is going, like, I was like, oh shit. That's so funny and completely accurate. That was my entire experience.
Yeah. I like to cram 4 hours of podcast into 2. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. It's efficiency.
Value.
Exactly.
Really, value. Value, dog. Yeah. So that's wild. So how do you, I know, and because I mean, this is something that I was doing again in the music world here. And so I love that. I love seeing your hustle. I love seeing your,
Thank you, brother.
It's something that I get motivation from anybody. And I was saying this on my last podcast too, or 2 podcasts ago, I guess. I get motivation from anyone doing anything.
Yeah.
You know, and then when somebody is doing something and progressing, that's like because this like I get the most inspiration from people that are masterful.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
If you're really good at I don't give anything.
Yeah, 100%.
Anything,
Same
it's
here.
like,
Yeah.
wow. Tell me how you did that, because there's something
Yeah.
to
I can
be
learn
learned
something
there,
here for
you
sure.
know?
Yeah.
And then it's just, but then you start to realize, okay, there's only very few masters of anything.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, well, I like people who are getting better at what they're doing too. There's inspiration there. But as I've gotten older, I've also started to realize, oh, wait, if you're doing something, that's still a lot more than anybody else.
Yeah.
Oh shit, that's also cool. Even if, okay, let's talk, like, you don't know what the fuck you're doing.
Yeah.
That's a cool place to be. Let's dive into that too. And how are you gonna maneuver from not knowing anything? And you know, so it's like I've gone from, oh yeah, the expert, that's where I get everything from, where now it's like I even just give an example. I tuned into my homies Dubious, who hosts a couple radio shows, and he's always putting on for Canadian talent.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, let me hop into this Twitch stream while he's kind of putting his show together, is what he does, all his overlays and stuff. He live streams it on Twitch. So I was like, okay, let's go on. Let's see let's see what like some of the other local artists throughout Canada are going on. And I'm playing he's playing some of these tracks, and I'm looking them up on Spotify, and I'm like, damn, this guy got 1 monthly list, 5 monthly, 15 monthly listeners. But I'm like, damn, this song is a banger. Let me go on it's like, oh shit, this guy's brand new, this is his first song. It's like, damn, this is this dude's first song. And then even with I just finished Taylor Swift's discography.
You went down the full rabbit hole.
A podcast with my sister that just came out the day we were recording this. Where I'm like, okay, my sister loved Taylor Swift. I'm like, okay, she's worth $1 billion. Everyone's talking about her. I really don't know anything. I know, her couple bangers, but let's dive in right from the beginning. And right from the first album, I was like, damn, there's 2-3 songs on here that are classics. This was her first album. And now look at her. Now look at the master that she is. And so that was a cool experience of going right from the beginning. And I don't know a lot of her work. And so it was this journey of like, holy shit. And then to listen to her latest album, I can't believe I just talked about fucking Taylor Swift for 2 hours. My sister. I can't believe I still got more shit.
Oh, you got more in you. Let it out, baby. I can feel it. I can feel it in you.
And so it's like I get so much inspiration, and you're in a world that I love. You know, I'm a huge comedy fan. I mean, I didn't find the mood because of comedy. I found the mood because Dave loves is a fan of music. You know, which was a cool way to get into this world of oh shit, you guys are doing comedy here. You guys are doing what the fuck? What the fuck?
What is this place?
And where was I going with this whole? You.
Putting me and Taylor Swift in the same kind, I'm okay with that.
And even just to hear, we can't talk about it right now, but hear what you got coming down the canon, and it's like, bro, this couldn't be more of the shit that I love. And that, you know, because I'm also a big fan of Edmonton. You know, it's like I love
same dude.
I love Edmonton. I love that's why I go to the local comedy shows, because being a comedy fan, go there and I'm like, yo, you had to go check out this dude. His set was insane. You know, you've
got to see Gulliver Twist.
Like it's fucking. There's so many nights I've gone to the moon. I haven't been to the Asylum in a while now. Actually.
Yeah, I know. I want you to perform on that. I've been bugging you. I know you've been off live. I know. But now that you're back, I'm gonna start bugging you again.
Bro, I might have to come back.
Dude, do it, man. I know.
Well, stay tuned. We might be back. I did tell the homie I was gonna start getting back. I've been saying no for so long that it's like might as well get back
Yeah.
to it, you know. It's
Yeah.
like, we'll see how this show.
I've had a question about that for like an hour now. I don't know.
Please,
but like I didn't know. Do you want to finish the Taylor Swift thing? Because I haven't forgot. If I haven't forgot at this point, I won't forget it.
The biggest thing I was gonna say, why I'm connecting all of those things, is and why I was even so excited for this is because I love the hustle. You're doing the shows. Because you're multifaceted, and that's why you're unique in this atmosphere, and why, you know, I think I have a connection with, you know, because it's like, okay, this guy, I can see kind of myself in him. He's doing his thing, you know. It's not parallel, but it's similar, you know.
I think there's a lot of people that have a passion for a specific thing. Like, there's a lot of comics that are passionate about comedy, but like guys like us, we're passionate about passion.
Yeah.
Right. And like, I'm so passionate about comedy, but I'm also passionate about the Oilers. I'm passionate about MMA. I'm passionate about fucking music. I'm a passionate guy, right? Like that's what it is, and I can genuinely connect on that, right? But like when you were talking earlier, I think you could take word for word what you were saying earlier and find it on my podcast. And just like a master of just finding someone. Like I don't care if it's fucking, you know, Chinese stick whittling, right? If you love it, I don't know what's on my ass, but like. I don't care what it is. If you are passionate about it and I want to hear about it. Tell me about it. What I can learn shit from you, right? And like, again, that is a huge thing that I've taken from Rogan, right? And from Book of Five Rings and stuff, right? Like great book, right? Like 3 pages long, easy to read, beautiful, right? But like you see that, and I find that, and I'm so drawn to those people, and like and then there's people that are like passionate about comedy, but almost like the best ones that have the deepest passion. Like I feel like you almost, if you close yourself down to one passion, you are limiting how passionate you can be. And I feel like the people that are the most passionate about comedy are just passionate people that are passionate about a lot. The people that are most passionate about music have passions in other places, right? Like it's almost like when you see people just like, it's almost like faking passion when you're just like passionate about one thing. That's your one thing. It's like, are you really trying to do it? Or are you just trying to get something out of this, right? Because you see a lot of people, they just want to be famous,
and that's
right? They just want to, but you can feel it, you can tell it, audiences can feel it. Tell me about it. Fuck, like you see the results on stage, but
and hip hop, I mean, is the worst for that.
Yeah,
you know? Oh, for sure. You know, it's about the bling and the show.
Okay,
you know, it really is image first. And like, I mean, for the longest time, I was going around in a fucking toga. You know, I was like anti bling for the longest time, and it's not that it's. I mean, I understand.
Yeah, to each your own, whatever.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, my goal's still to be all blinged out.
Yeah. I can't wait to see it.
But it's the art first, you know.
100%.
It's the art.
It has to be.
It's the discipline of getting better. This is just the avenue. And, you know, I think, you know, that whole samurai belief of, like, you know, a samurai should also be a great painter and a fantastic gardener and should
calligrapher.
Calligraphy. That's exactly the word I was trying.
I know. I can see it. I can see it spinning. I can see it spinning. Yeah.
I can't think of the word. You know, and it's like, and Ryan Holiday. You're familiar with Ryan Holiday?
Oh, the name's so familiar. I know I am.
Daily Stoic.
Daily Stoic. Okay. Yeah.
Countless books.
I've heard him on podcasts.
Courage is the way.
Yeah.
He's my favorite author. I read everything from this dude. And he said, and lots of people say certain things like this, but he said, he's like, the biggest lesson I learned being a writer is if you want to be an interesting writer, you have to live an interesting life, you know, and that means you got to get out of the cave, you know, you gotta go explore the rest of the world and bring it back to the cave and be like, hey, so fucking this thing I saw the other day, you know, it's like, and I think that's what you're doing, you know, it's like, because I think people get caught up too much on because you are big picture. You got so much, you got, you know, you're able to balance both the here and now, the small and the big. The big,
because I'm always focused on the big thing. Like, I have so many crazy plans that people would they would turn their nose at, like, you're going to do what? It's like, watch me, right? And like the things I'm doing now are what's going to build that. And like the thing I told you earlier, like why I waited that long to do it. And like, because I wanted to have the right skill set. I wanted to make sure I was ready for it, right? But I think there's a huge trap with what you just said is, to be like an interesting comic, you have to live an interesting life, right? And you have to be genuine. But there's such a trap just to fall into like doing what everybody else is doing. And like, putting these videos on TikTok that like everybody else is doing and stuff, and you get so focused on that you lose touch with who you are. Like in the first 5-10 years of comedy, you should just be able to like the goal should be to be comfortable being yourself. And like finding that, right? And I feel like people go through the exact opposite, where they almost like have to go through this whole thing where they build up this character to different degrees. Some people it's like a full character with a different name. Some people it's just, they become a different person on stage, and like that can work too. But
of course, when done almost authentically,
exactly, right? And it can be done authentically. And there's guys that do it authentically, like Gulliver Twist. I already shouted him out once in Spot. Like he put 10 years into authentically building this thing that is very much him on stage. And then you see people try and do it, but it's like, you have to be aware of it, right? Like if you're just going down the path to following what everybody else is doing, trying to pursue the same things everyone else is doing, you're hamstringing your progress of like that true thing of like finding that authentic you that you can be, and then finding the courage to bring that authentic thing. Cause like bombing on stage sucks. But bombing on stage with some stuff you wrote that like you're kind of half in, half out, like this is just this thing I'm putting on, it sucks way less. Right? Where if you go up and genuinely be yourself and like, I think this is hilarious, I'm just being a goofball, and that bombs, that's a different type of pain, right? So like it's, you see I find something that like has changed my life. It was way back. This would have been like junior high or high school. I read a book called Freakonomics. Because I always loved economics. Freakonomics are these amazing guys. Yeah, and they have a podcast now. It's a huge thing now, but like it was when the book first came out. They've had a bunch of books. Okay. There are 2 economists from the Chicago school, I think, or at least one of them's from the Chicago school. They're amazing, and they just like go through the world and find these weird, like using economics to find these weird like incentive structures, like how like sumo wrestling is rigged, how like real estate is fucked because of like the incentive structures of like how much real estate agents made. They're disincentivized to help you and stuff, and like they just find these cool aspects of the world of how incentive structures do things. About how they did one on how the big crime drop in New York, everyone like blamed it on like the new policing and stuff, and they're like, no, it was actually Roe v. Wade getting passed and all these like children that didn't end up on the street and stuff, and like just actually going through the actual economic factors of what underpins everything. And what I learned was that like incentive structures are everything, right? Like words are words, right? People say things, but like we're human beings. We have these coping mechanisms and these like trauma responses that insulate us away from the reality of the world. And like you just have to look at incentive structures. And like when you look at it that way, you can understand stuff. And then when I went into business and I was running a huge company, I was like, oh, it's all I don't care what you say. What are you incentivized to do? Right? Like look at actions and look at incentives. And don't get fucking blinded by words and fucking what's people are telling you can do. That's not what they're going to do, right? Create incentive structures. And that's how you go into it of like, oh, I can tell people I'm going to run the best shows, but the only way to do it is incentivize them by putting on great shows and getting them to want to come out to that, right? But then you look around at like the comedy world now of like what it incentivizes and what it's pushing, and you see all these issues, and it's like, it's mind-blowing to me that more people don't see it, of like how the incentive structures that you're told to follow and that everyone else is following are pulling you down a bad path where you're not going to become funny. You're going to become a hacky, fucking just saying what everybody else saying, not pissing anybody off. And like, yeah, if you keep doing that for 10 years, you might get on JFL or CBC. And that's kind of the path in Canada. It's like, okay, well, if you wanted to make money and do the road and get, you know, like be a Canadian comic that makes money doing it in Canada, follow that path. But if you want to make it to the States, if you want to start getting on podcasts, if you want to start, you know, being like a guest on Kill Tony, if you want to get on, like, if you want to do those things, you have to follow a different path.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy, JusJrdn here, interrupting myself to do my own ad. Thank you so much for all the likes, subscriptions, and thanks for checking out this video. If you really want to support me and the channel, the best thing that you can do is pre-order my vinyl record. I've been working on this record for forever. It's only coming out on vinyl. There will only ever be 1,000 copies of this vinyl ever released, and it would mean the world if you bought it. I spent a lot of time, a lot of money, worked with some of the best musicians in all of Canada, especially all of Edmonton, to put this together. It's a beautiful album, influences of rock, hip hop, and it's just a beautiful, unique piece of art, and it's made for the art lovers. But it's going to be gold. It's beautiful colors, so many great artists on this. And yeah, it's my second album of all time, Olympus, and I'm so proud of it. So it'd mean the world if you could pick it up. If you really want to support the channel, it would mean everything. All right, back to the podcast.
Oh, also, before back to the podcast, you can pre-order it at www.primepurposemovement.com/shop. All right. Thank you. Go buy it.
And it's like, okay, well, what are we doing it for? Like,
Because that's what matters.
that's what
That's
matters.
what
And that's
matters.
all that's ever mattered. And that's all I've ever, it's like, since I first stepped foot on stage, that has been my goal. And it's tough because there's so much like inbuilt structure and like power systems within comedy of like people that have been around a whole long time and carry a lot of weight and a lot of key holders that aren't even comedians that like dictate who gets what. And it's just silly to me of like what people pursue, but you see everyone pursue the easy things. Like if there's I shouldn't talk the amount of shit I do, just in general. But like, I don't know, say there's 2 comedy clubs in town. One's the comic strip, one's another comedy club. And and you know that if you go to the comic strip, you have to talk to a scary old Italian man named Dino, who's pretty gruff and pretty fucking rough and isn't going to insulate your feelings. Like, are you good or are you not? Right? Like you're going to find out. That's scary, but you might get something out of that because the comic strip is like one of the best clubs. We're so lucky in Edmonton. Like people don't realize we have one of like the top 10 clubs in like North America, like the actual structure and the bones of it. Right. Like, like it's always going to depend on who's the comics on stage that night. Right. Like that's always what comedy is, but the bones of like what the structure of what we have as like a community, it's unbelievable. It's an amazing, amazing club, but scary. Right. And like there's no true meritocracy. Comedy should be meritocracy, but it never is. But like that's the closest you get. So people shy away from it. They won't go there. They won't want to go up. But then say there's another club that's way more kind of Canadian with like the more typical Canadian comedy of like, no, everyone will get their spot. Kind of like, well, we're never going to say a bad word about you. We'll just keep getting like, you might not get the stuff, but that insulates people away. So then everyone pursues that. And it's like, okay, but what is this getting you at the end of the day of like, what, okay, you're putting in, you have a certain bandwidth of how much effort you can put into these different venues and how much brown nose you can do, right? And that's part of the industry. You gotta do it. You gotta make connections, but you just see people put these connections in like, oh, I can talk this shit because he's fired now. But there was a guy who ran JFL and he was the booker. Could be a great guy. Never met him. Probably an amazing human being. I don't know him. But like you watch everyone just like go around and if he's at a show, everyone's sucking his dick and shit. And I'm like, he doesn't do comedy. I think he might have done comedy, but like I've never seen him cross on stage like I don't know why we're all pursuing it and stuff. And it's like, people think that if they get JFL, it's this golden ticket, it's going to solve all their problems and stuff. And it's like, well, not really. If you're great, it will, right? Like there's a comic, local Edmonton comic that's absolutely crushing the world right now. His name is Malik Elisal. And he is like unbelievably good. So talented, so quick, like has all the skills. He's a great writer, but also very quick in the moment and can like crowd work. He's got it all. Damn. Like you're going to see this guy. He's already like on TV. Like he just got cooked like and like got over that hump, but it was through JFL and everyone's like, look at JFL is there. It's like, no, a broken clock. Like who has JFL blown up in the last fucking 20 years? And they have this kid that grinds, put all this effort. It's all on him and goes to the show. And that's when like actual comics like Pete Holmes saw him and stuff, brought him down to LA, crazy. Put him on Largo, absolutely murdered apparently, which obviously is because he's talented as fuck. Went on podcasts and now is getting on TV shows. But that's not JFL.
No.
They didn't do that. Malik Elisal did that. Right? Like, but everyone's still stuck in it because they want it, because it's easier to believe that there is a path there. Yeah. And it scares people to say, hey, this path everyone's walking on, it falls off a cliff. There's nothing at the end of that. Yeah. Right? If you can learn to fly by the time you get to the end of the cliff, you're fine. But you're already flying, right? Yeah. Why are you walking down this path to where you're going to learn to fly, thinking that there's going to be some fucking flight school at the end? There is no flight school. Yeah. It's a cliff, right? But then it's like, okay, so then everyone's walking this beaten path. Well, fucking walk down something else. Do something else. Like, the Danger Cats boys have been in the news lately. They've been trying to get canceled 6 ways from Sunday, right? And like, that's bullshit and whatever. Fucking just, if you're trying to be funny, relax, right? Like, we can go into a whole bunch of that. It's literally a joke. Like, we're comedians. This is what we do. But like, you see those guys where they're not waiting for nobody. Yeah. They book their own shows. They book their own tours. They go all around Canada. They rent out little movie theaters in small towns. They put on great shows for their audience, and they've grown something. And now they're got their visas and they're working in the States. And it's like, how do you guys not see this? Yeah. Like, oh yeah, you might have personal issues with kind of how they work and what they operate. So that it's, but you're giving yourself excuses to like say why that's not good. It's like, look yourself in the mirror and like what can you learn from that? right? And like that's what gets me, of just the incentive structures in Canadian comedy are so bad. But then when you come in and you're the guy that says, hey, this is all fun, why are we pursuing this? Everyone's like, well, fuck this guy. He's messing with our security. He's saying this is like I've been doing this for 8 years pursuing this. Like, I don't want to hear that this is not the right way. But it's like, well, we're all going to do better if we just all create our own shit, make Edmonton the sickest place where everyone wants to come here. American acts know like Edmonton's a place for comedy in Canada. Like all these guys that have left to go pursue their dreams in Toronto. What the fuck are you doing? It's the same thing as Edmonton. Stay here and crush, right? Like, and obviously you can get to a point, like we have some comedians in Edmonton that like got so good that they kind of capped out on what they've done. Every good show in Edmonton they've been in front, but like the real solution is, okay, well at this point now do something about it, build an audience and like actually like start your own shit and do the road, or go to Vancouver. But like at that point, get your visa and get down to the States, start crushing if you're that good. It's wild to me. But I'm a baby. I just started comedy. I can't say this. Nobody listens to me. I'm like, because
how long have you been doing now?
It'll be 2 years in June. Which is like, again, within comedy, that is like, you are a toddler. Yeah. And I know that. And I feel that, right? Like, but
you got some serious reppage.
100%. Yeah. I'm a ripped little toddler. Yeah. like I might be a toddler, but I've been working. Yeah. I'm like that fucking, remember that like karate kid that like, kind of looks like you a little bit. It was like a Dateline thing. His dad, I think the dad just pumped him full of steroids and was like the strongest kid in the world. Do you ever remember that? Exactly. You remember that? Yeah. Mean, yeah, that's what I feel like. I'm just like a little baby.
I think they stunted his growth.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Totally remember that. 100%. I feel like that's the comedy equivalent of what I am right now.
That's great. I would agree. I mean, because as much as you're confident in what you are, it's because it's based on fact. You know, it's like I've listened to your podcast, I've come to your shows, I've gone to many other local shows as well, not to shit on it, but it's like I've been part of shitty shows, and happens all the time, and it's like you back it up
every week.
It's like you're there putting in the reps, you're there, and you can tell, you know. And I always thought you were fucking funny. You did.
Thanks, bro.
That the one thing where you gave away like concession, like you.
Oh yeah. And then chirp them. Yeah.
What they selected, I was like, that's hilarious, bro.
Yeah.
Just that idea. Yeah, we'll give you some free shit, but we're gonna fucking.
Yeah. You get this $15 voucher for like the coolest fucking candy with all these import stuff. Like you can get like, you know, Asian fucking strawberry Oreos and all this stuff. Like you have everything in front of you. You're gonna get $15 to go spend, but when you come back, we're all judging. Not just me. The whole room is gonna judge what you bought.
I remember when you did it, I was like, I'm so hyped to see what they did for some reason.
Yeah. I gotta bring that back. I haven't done that in a while.
Bro, I don't know why I just remembered that so clearly that one time.
Oh, it's good shit. That is good shit. Oh fuck, I had something else. Oh, here's another really important piece of this too, of like this. Of course, man.
Would you like some as well?
Do I have to do comedy tonight? No, I don't. I'm going to the Oilers game. I'm good. I want to. This is the thing. Me and weed, our relationship, I've been unkind to my relationship with weed lately. I'm trying to be better.
Okay.
I've been getting a little aggressive. It's tough when you run a show where you're fucking in a room full of weed every night and like, oh, I should maybe. Yeah. Anyway, but
I feel you.
Well, we might get into that. But like, what I was gonna say is like, there's this huge disconnect too, because like it's again like an incentive structure of people want to run shows, right? Because when you run shows, you get stage time, you get connections, you can give something to get something, right? So people will run shows, but there's a certain like disconnect that they have. Like they're putting on a show and they're putting a certain level of care in it, but they're not really putting their name behind it. Like they might put their face on the poster, they'll put some ads up, but they won't actually go through the extra step of like messaging people, trying to come like promise, hey, if you come to the show, you're gonna have a great time, because they don't genuinely believe that, because they're not actually putting behind. But like there's this extra layer, because now you go on, if you just put on a show, put on comics and you try your best and it's an okay show or not that many people show up and it kind of sucks, you can kind of insulate yourself away from that, right? Yeah. But you're not actually taking that step to really dive in with both feet, right? 100%. Whereas like I realized I struggled with it off the start. Like when I first started my first show, I couldn't believe what a struggle it was for me to get over that. And like messaging people to come felt so shitty. It felt so gross. but you just learn and you get over that. And like and then when I started the Friday show, or I guess it was on Thursdays when it started, but the shows at the Moon, the Asylum, it was like, okay, now I've learned these lessons and I'm confident that I'm going to give you an amazing show. Like you're never going to be perfect. Sometimes one just doesn't work out. Some comics drop off. The show doesn't go how you don't have it as a host that night and you don't bring the heat, right? Like I've had shows where I'm not really happy with the lineup, but I can host the fuck out of it and I can make it a great show. I've had times where there's a great lineup, but I suck as a host and it suffers because of that, right? Like you have all these things, but at least at the very base level, I have the confidence to say, come out to this show. I promise you a good time. You're going to have an amazing, amazing experience and you won't regret it. And now that I have that, it's so much easier to message people and bring them out. But like, until you cross that barrier where you're actually believing and like jumping in like that, you are destined not to fail, but destined to not achieve what it could have been.
Yeah,
right?
Because even if, yes, this is actually a conversation I've been having a lot, is that full commitment thing, because
which I'm still struggling with. I talk about full commitment because relatively and comparatively, I'm way more fully committed, but I'm still struggling with that a bunch of shit, right? Like,
of course,
that's a constant battle. You're never going to be as fully, like, you can always be more committed. You can always be doing more, right? But like that base level of understanding yourself and just having that conscious awareness of like, oh, I'm not all in.
Yeah.
Or like being aware of that is hugely important.
Absolutely. And I think it always comes back to death. You know, it always comes back to the fear of failure. It's always
100%.
It's always
The Worm at the Core, baby.
You know,
great book.
What is it?
The Worm at the Core.
Oh,
it's about, oh, dude. My mom was just reading it the other day. I was so happy.
The Worm with a Core?
The Worm at the Core. This is going to go down. Sorry to interrupt, because this is going to go down a bit of a rabbit hole. So a couple of years ago, actually quite a few years ago, probably like 5 or 6 years ago, Lex Friedman, he's my guy, okay. Right? Like everyone always thinks it's Rogan, and to a degree, it's always going to be Rogan, but like Lex Friedman's my guy. Like he's the one that like inspires me more than anything. And like, I just love his podcast, love who he has on. He had this guy on who talked about terror management theory. And it's this like psychological theory about like the development of the mind. And like when humans became conscious, we were the first animal that can conceive of our own death. And to keep going on and just evolutionary to be able to move forward, we developed this amazing way to compartmentalize and keep the fact that we know we're going to die like away and insulated in certain ways. And that is like the thing that allows us to compartmentalize, and is like kind of the whole overarching structure of our brain all comes from our ability to compartmentalize death away. And then they go through the book of like how they prove this and stuff, and all these amazing psychological studies they've done about like the effect of just reminding you of death and how it impacts you as a person. Like, and a bunch of shit came out with like all the COVID stuff about how they were using that fear of death to incentivize people and to just change, just influence people to do what they want and stuff. And it just like when you start reading these studies about how much like just they do studies of like just walking someone by a mortuary and then asking these questions, like you don't realize how much your mind is constantly on that. And like, don't even need to go that far. Like people know, like just the fear of death is our biggest thing that we struggle with as humans, right? And that's why psychedelics are so powerful. Like there's so many things that come to it, but when you really read like people that study that at its base level, it is fascinating. And there's a nice little book. It's called The Worm at the Core, and it will.
I will give it a read.
Oh, it's not a huge book either. Like a nice easy read, but it's fascinating. And then he wrote it with another guy. And he wrote another one. Fuck, I have it at home. I can't remember the name of it, but it's another great book. It's more of his like through the research, his own personal experience of like what he's come out. It's like less scientific and stuff. But it's another one. Fuck, am I afraid to die? No. Oh, it's a great book too. I can picture the cover in my head. Yeah, I'll send it to you after. Sorry, it's just kind of
no.
When you said that, that's like one of my favorite things. I love talking.
That's so cool because it's fear of commitment always comes from that.
It's what articulates all your fears. Yeah, and that's what they talk about. Yeah, and like the structure that we built up to like how that is what. Yeah, every fear you have is some manifestation of your fear of death through all these layers of compartmentalization of where it comes up. But if you follow it all the way down, it always comes back to that. Yeah, and there's such a powerful awareness of that, of like meditating on that, and like why so many of the most amazing people that have been able to do the most amazing things in life do meditate on death and have become okay, or have gone through, whether it's a psychedelic practice or something like that. That's what changes. That's why you see like a good mushroom dose change someone fundamentally as a person, because fundamentally we have this thing that we're battling with. And as a culture for years, we're way more in touch with that. Like the whole culture of how we lived life was way more in touch with that, and we were way more connected to it. But then, and that's another big part of the book, That's what that other book is.
Oh,
He talks about this.
interesting.
The other book is how he talks about like all the death cultures, like the Day of the Dead and all that, and like how important that is to culture and like what happens to us and how much more psychotic's the wrong word, but like just how much more crazy we get when we're removed from that, and we don't really, we have all this anxiety, we have all this stuff, and we don't know what it's caused. It's like,
bro,
oh, there's this one like yeah.
It's like no matter what, and that's fascinating.
And it'll look different for every person, but that's what it comes back to, and it's just a fascinating theory. Yeah, read that book.
That's fascinating because I'm aware. Once you started to elaborate more, I was like, oh yeah, I am aware of this. I remember diving into it. I actually have a song coming out on Olympus 2. It's called 4,000 Weeks. And it's based on, I think my brother actually has that book right there, 4,000. Have you ever read that book?
No, I haven't.
Bro, oh my.
4,000 Weeks.
Bro,
Oliver
Berkeley.
Olivier.
It's
I threw another E in there.
Because 4,000 weeks is the average lifespan of a human.
4,000 weeks, that's it?
So that's why this book is crazy.
That can't be right. 50. Oh, yeah. Never mind. I was thinking days.
But that's why. It's because why it's called 4,000, and this book elaborates on it, and it's one of the most it's called 4,000 Weeks Time Management for Mortals.
Oh,
oof, bro.
Damn.
And so this book,
that's heavy shit.
This book, and so I read this book, and I did a mushroom trip, and I came out at the other side, and I wrote this song called 4,000 Weeks. Actually, I came out the other side, and I was like, okay, I need to get Olympus. I finished one part of my album, Olympus, and then the other part, I was like, wait, I can't put this out yet. There's another part of the story that I need to tell.
Yeah.
You know, and it, Olympus was, I wrote that because that was when I was like, oh wait, you know, it's like this is when I started getting introduced to the idea of the divine feminine and the masculine. And I was like, oh wait, we're part God here, you know, and that's where Olympus comes from. And it's like, oh, you know, you're powerful, you're magical, you can do anything you set your mind to. And then, you know, I did this mushroom trip. I read this book. I had a couple big public failures. Those
are always good for you.
Oh man, every couple of years I face a big one. I see, but
start calm. It'll happen all the time.
But it's also because I take huge risks.
100%.
And it's like,
I love that about you.
And so it's like, it has taken me up until this point now where I'm like, oh, I fail at a big scale because I try at a big scale, you know? And I'm like, oh, and you know, after big failures, you know, it's not like, okay, well, on to the next one. You know, it's like, it takes a lot of learning, and it's like
a little bit of tears, a little bit of fucking hiding away for a bit.
And that's exactly, because I don't get angry. I'm not how I respond is by pulling away, you know, and I go in, and I'm like, okay, hold on, let's fucking, you know,
reset, recalibrate,
get back to things,
learn the lessons I need to,
and then come back, you know, especially because it's like, you know, it's like a lot of my messages is positivity, is self-growth, and it's like I don't always like to come out when I'm not at a place that I think is presentable for others.
100%.
Because I think it affects my authenticity. Because until I can come and have grips and be okay with the things that I've been through, it's like I have a hard time being public about things. You know? And so I go through these cycles. I feel like I've getting better at them. You know, because I'm more aware.
We always are.
But it's always comes back to death. You know. It was this experience of reading that book and doing that mushroom trip into failures, and I got this song called 4,000 Weeks, which is, it's 3 verses, and it's about dying, and you know, it's talking about who I am now, who I was then, and who I strive to be eventually. And where was I even going with all of this? Oh, it's just the impact of this book, because you mentioned things like the Day of the Dead, and I was just like, oh, it was once I was able to comprehend my own death. You know, I did that 3 days in darkness thing. I literally saw, there was a time in that room where I was like, oh, if I die right now, everything will keep going, you know, and that's when I became the most.
You walk to the precipice. You
know, it's like, oh, if I got that experience another time from meditation when I did this super long meditation, and I got my heart rate to this part where I was like, okay, I'm only gonna breathe when my heart beats. So I would inhale, and I was like, okay, when it beats again, I'll exhale. you know, and I just remember taking this inhale and my heart rate seemed like it was like done. It's like, and so in that moment I was like, so if I just never breathe again, what would happen then? Yeah. And I was like, well, all I know is I wouldn't be right here, you know? And then I was like, well, I like being here, you know? And I was like, well, what a powerful, it's like, I get to be here, you know? I get to live during this time with these people doing all of these things, you know? And it's made me, and then this is always what it turns out to be, you know, you can always be more fearless. You can always fear death less. Yeah. You can always be more accepting.
You can always be more bold in the face of the more fear you're always going to face more fear. And if you keep moving forward, there's going to be bigger things that scare you, but you can always be bolder in the face of it. And like, that's something I learned like before I ever did comedy, more so when I was like leaving that job. I wasn't even leaving the job at the time. I just wanted to pursue podcasting. And I knew I was just so passionate about podcasting. Like I'm still as passionate I am about comedy, and I'm sure people can understand that from the conversation we heard, but like I'm more passionate about podcasting. Like I was so excited to come in today, and I love being a guest where it's just, I get to come in, I get to use the skill set I built up. I've done fucking thousands of hours of this shit. And like, I get to come in and just be me. Like nothing better. But like, sorry. No. What I learned, like when I was in that time where I really wanted to start, and I've never been more depressed, like really dark time in my life. It was COVID. I was working, I was running this huge company. The sky was falling. Like when you run a company, the sky is always falling. And like, I'd kind of gotten to the point of that of like, holy, okay, all right, something's always going wrong and you're always solving it, but like you have the skills and you handle this. And then everything went sideways and COVID happened. And then you have pressures of like corporate of what they want you to lay off all these people. They want you to ask all these things of them about their medical that I'm not really comfortable. Like it was just a tough time. And the whole time I'm just so passionate about this thing I'm not doing, which is podcasting, right? But I was so scared. And going through that, of just jumping through that fear and starting and doing that podcast and seeing what I got out of it and how much it changed me and like just how amazing it was. And then, okay, what's the next one? What's the next thing that's scary? And just starting to use fear as a positive of looking for that, because that's where the growth is. What scares you? And like that mindset shit, I'm still working on that. It's still very tough, but like that is a huge mindset shift of like where you can trick your body into not shying away from those things. Cause like fear is just stimulus. What you do with it is the important thing, right? And like, we have a bunch of in-baked things that tell you to run from fear, which is healthy and can save you in a long times. But like at a certain point, it's just kind of what growing up is of like, okay, let's be conscious of this. Let's not let the fear run me. Let's use it as stimulus and make decisions based on that. And a lot of the time that will show you where you need to go. What scares you, right?
And that I can't remember. You're a fan of Jordan Peterson as well.
Huge fan. Yeah,
that's what I thought as well. He often talks about the dragon guarding the treasure, and it's like you're always in a better position if it's you going to the dragon. Because if that dragon catches you off guard, now you're at a double disadvantage.
Yeah, and then your family might be there, right? Like if you let that fear kind of like, it's gonna come for you at some point, and maybe like you better go to it and go fight it with your fucking armor on and go into that cave, right? Because if not, that's gonna come and kill your village and everyone you care about, right? Like
and then there's the caveat of, because this is also, because then there's being ignorant as well, there's the going to fight the dragon, but dog, you didn't fucking sharpen your sword first, and now you're gonna go punch the dragon in the face, it's like, bro, you
don't got the cardio, you're going in there out of shape.
The walk to the dragon, you're like, oh fuck, bro, because I think that's one thing that had before that harmed me, my own battle was, okay, we failed, fucking let's go, and we didn't take that time of improving first. Where I was being, I faced a lot of fail, and then it was a big failure, and then my whole world blew up, and I was like, where the fuck do I go from here now? I was trying to fight all these dragons, and before I was healed up from the last battle,
or you didn't take the lessons from the last battle, you just go, because I see this in comedy all the time of like, just they go fight the dragon, they get their ass and they go, oh yeah, that was unfair. My shoe was untied. You know, it's like, no, your sword wasn't sharp. You were in bad shape. This and that. Like, I see that. And I know you see that, but you don't take those lessons. And then you just go right back under the drain and go get fucked up again. And it's like, it's tough.
Because there's no such thing as fearless, but it also takes fear for you to be brave. You're not brave without, and that was I can't remember what book that was that I read, and it was an interesting one because it was this dude who did the testing for Navy SEALs performance, and what they would do is he was assigned to come up with a list of, okay, this person displays lots of empathy, you know, or this person is very loving, or this person is very hateful. And there was this book dissected traits and characteristics of people, and some of them were like you either had it or you didn't, but most of them were scale. It's like, well, this is the same emotion, this is the same characteristic, but what is it that you display? And no one thing ever was like, okay, it's this list of traits, it's this list of characteristics that makes a great Navy SEAL or someone who's great at performance, because you know, Navy SEAls just have to be mentally strong.
That's all they're about, is just performance.
You know? It's all performance. That's what this thing was. But what it did was it broke down things like, okay, is this person patient or urgent? You know, and it's like some performers who are super urgent perform super well. However, some that are super patient also perform super well.
And those things complement each other.
And that's what, and this book broke down things to me where I was like, oh, nothing is cookie cutter. And it's like, oh, we all have these things, and maybe in different situations I'm more urgent and I'm more patient. And it just put words, and it connected these traits of things that I was like, oh, I either got it or I don't. And sometimes it's either you're strong or you're not, you know. It's like, can you pick that up or can't you? You know, it's like 250 pounds is heavy, you know. It's like sometimes it's very clear, but most of the time it's not. And then when you start to realize, oh, I want to be a courageous person, I want to be a strong person. Well, what does that entail? That entails hard battles. That entails being
shit that
very
scares you.
Scared, you know. And it's like, oh, it's like, I want to be that person, so what's the price of that? The price of courage is fear. You know, the of being strong is being weak for a very long time. You know, never being strong enough. That's the only reason you get strong. And it's this battle, and it helps me, I think, now even to write songs, because it's like before, I think I tried to. And actually, it's Taylor Swift that is really
open the story.
That has helped me. It's like things can be simple and complicated at the same time.
Almost always.
You know, love and hate are the same thing, but they themselves are so complicated and endless. But they are one of the same thing. You know. And there's all these back and forths about art. Damn, I feel like I went on a crazy tangent there, bro.
That's what we do on podcasts, dude. I did it at the start. I don't think you got a word in the first 15 minutes, dude.
I was like, oh man, I got so much. And so it's exciting to see people. I mean, it always comes back to why I think we have good conversations and stuff, because it's like, I see people don't understand how hard it is to do things. I think, you know,
100%.
It's like, to get up on stage, to go fly somewhere you don't know, to get on, to try to, or even, you know, one thing I need to talk to you about, not to take a hard fucking turn.
I love taking hard left turns.
When you went to the mothership, bro.
Yeah, I didn't perform at the mothership, but like, still cool to go there.
Experience of going there, bro.
I've got to do it twice, and it was unreal.
So what's the experience like for the first time?
Oh, okay. Let me get comfortable here. Yeah, so like the first time going down, I was like super scared, just like what I talked about earlier of like, there's a very structured thing about like, how long have you done comedy and what should you be doing? And if you step outside of that, if you don't walk the same path everyone else is walking, immediately you're looked at very sideways. And it's only by the people that are insecure and like not figuring out. All the like really funny guys don't give a shit. They're confident in themselves and they don't really have a lot of these. But the guys that are more insecure and like kind of more on a level, like all the guys that have kind of already figured out that I have like a lot of respect for, that I think are really funny, they never did this. They couldn't give a shit. They gave me the best advice. Yeah, do what you want, right? When everyone else is telling me, no, you have to do it this way. You can't crowd work. You have to just write 5 minutes and just hone it and hone it and hone it. I'm like, that's not really what I want to do. But then, you're hearing that from one comic, and then like a Brad Semichuk, like one of the most talented guys to ever come out of Edmonton, just leans over and goes, don't listen to that. Fuck that. Do what you want. And it's like, yes, thank you. Anyway. Don't know how that got into that, but
no, great.
So I was really nervous going down there, just like more about like what are people gonna think and all that stuff, and then also it's just scarier going down where you don't know nobody. And luckily, I met a comic named Jason Rouse, he's from Hamilton originally, but he's been down in America doing stand up. He's done in Europe. He's done it for a really long time. Cool. He came up and did some shows at the Moon. Didn't know who Jason Rouse was going into this. I'm very ignorant of like Canadian comedy in general. I more know like the podcast kind of comedies, like that's what got me. I always loved stand up, and I knew like Russell Peters, and I'd see who was on like the Comedy Network or whatever the Canadian one was. But I was ignorant of, but he just, like hit it off. He was telling me old Joey Diaz stories, and I was fucking loving it, right? And just awesome. It was awesome. And didn't, I'm always so scared of like, everybody is so assy and just kiss assy in comedy of like, hey, can you help me get this? But it's just like, I've never been that way. I want to earn what I want. I want to get opportunities because you see me, you think I'm talented, and like and earn things that way. I'm bad at asking for spots just locally. I don't get booked on shit because like I want you to want me on your show. I don't want to fucking be like every other guy. I get comics hounding me all the time and being super asky and stuff when like they're not bringing the heat of like, well, just add to the show, be awesome and crush, and I'll put you on all the time. Yeah. Right? Like there's probably 10 comics in Edmonton that just have a standing invite. If you're ever free on a Friday, I want you booked. I don't care if it's every week for a month. I know you can make it happen. Even though we have regulars, you'll be fine, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not telling a mothership story here. I'm just going around in circles. Hey, bro,
no.
Yeah, but so I was a little bit like worried about what people were gonna think, but also I was a little bit worried. So I met this Jason Rouse and like got along good and talked to him, but didn't think nothing of it. Didn't ask nothing. And a couple of days later, he hit me up and he said, hey, let's do a podcast. It's like, oh, fucking right. It's like, love podcasting, love getting guests like that, and had an amazing conversation just because like he's done it for a long time. He's seen a lot and has like a lot of, and he's also a very different guy that has kind of walked his own path, which is like, we could not be more different, me and Rouse. Cool. Like just fundamentally different people, but like both have that wild streak of like, we connected on something, right? Like, and to hear that from him was cool, of like someone that's walked that path and gone a different way and taken the slings and arrows. Cause like, that's been my whole comedy journey since I started. It just feels like, yeah, not a lot of people like me. Well, so many people like me. I just need to be loved by everybody. So as soon as one person doesn't like me, it feels like everyone hates me, right? Like, and that's my own shit. I know that, but.
And I think that's also just being an artist.
For sure. 100% it is. 100% it is. Yeah. You're right. Yeah. But anyway, so I do this podcast with him and he goes like, you got to get down to Austin. I was like, yeah, like I would love to come. Like, I don't know how to start. Like, I don't know who to talk to. Like, do I just go down? And he hooked me up with this guy. He kind of likes to keep low key. So I don't want to shout him out too hard. His name's John. Guy named John.
Okay.
He's yeah, I'm just gonna skip over this and just big up him. He's just a Canadian guy that is in Austin and loves comedy and really loves helping people. Sick. He let me stay with him. And like didn't know this guy from that. It just like got this guy's name from Rouse, went down, like booked a trip down. Don't know this guy I'm staying with. Ended up being just the nicest guy. Shirt off his back, was so good with like telling me all, like the local dad, because he loves comedy and he knows so many people, right? Yeah. Like that, like gave me so much insight into that, like helped me. And like he's a night owl like me. So when I'd come home from being out at the mothership, like then we download everything. I saw this guy, and oh, you got to talk to this. Like he was just amazing. So then in subsequent trips going down has been way less scary because I know I'm going down to like hang with a friend and like have a place to stay. He's awesome. Love this guy. Can't thank him enough. But going down that first time, I didn't know this, so I was worried. Like I'm just going down. I'm going to stay with this guy. I don't know what I'm going to do for comedy, but yeah, I went down, just had the most amazing time, saw some awesome shows, got to do a podcast with a local comic down there. Cool. Which was like an amazing podcast. It's one of like my favorite ones. Trying to get him to come up here and do some comedy up this way and stuff. But yeah, and then went to the mothership. All the shows at the big room were sold out for months. So I just went and Went and
It's
saw
that poppin'.
oh yeah.
Holy
Yeah.
shit.
But I was lucky. I got a seat for the little room and
Cool.
went and just saw it. Started off, it was just like the open mic, and I was
Cool.
like, oh, I could have done this. These guys suck, right? Like, I'd be fine up there, right? And they're doing 3 minutes, but it's like the open mic, and then it transitions to the. I think it was still open mic, but it was like a little bit of the better people. Maybe they got 4 minutes, and I was like, oh, okay. Like this is more what I expected, right? Like this is good time, and the room is just amazing. I was actually really kind of shaken going in there because the energy in there of like coming in, they take your phone. There's like guys with guns. No one's really talking. It was like real fucking weird comedy club energy of like, this seems like aggressive, right? Like it was just like the security, you could feel like the heaviness of like, oh, this is like a big deal. But once you got into like the actual showroom, just a comedy club, right?
Cool.
Like good energy and stuff. And I was like, oh, that was weird. But like you forget about it immediately once you sit down, right? Like drinks are expensive, don't get me wrong. But like
I bet you they bang it.
So yeah, I saw that show. And then after like the open mic, then they had the like the staff night, because all the people that work at the comic or at the mothership had to like audition with their act and stuff, like all like the door guys and stuff. So then they go up. And that was like, wow, I got to see Casey Rocket. Casey Rocket has blown up now, but like I got to see him like before, like it was right before he started blowing. He was already like starting to cook, but like that was nuts.
Damn.
And to like watch, and like as a comedian that you watch shows differently. So as soon as he went on stage, I am dying. But like it took the rest of the audience probably a minute.
Because he's fucking if you
Yeah,
haven't
to like
seen Rocket,
and yeah, it's so
experience.
avant-garde and like so wild, but and like he murdered by the end of it. But like to watch, like to immediately be like, oh my God, this is the funniest guy I've ever seen. And I'm just dying, and everyone else is kind of looking at me and just being like, what the fuck? But then everyone else started getting into it. It was so awesome. I saw Casey there. And then they had a bunch of guys that were just unbelievable. So that was like a cool experience. But then next time I got to go down.
Wow.
So I was staying with John again.
Cool.
And he's very good buddies with Brian Holtzman. I don't know if you know Holtzman. He was a comedy store guy, and he would always like close out, do like the latest show, like to like no audience stuff. He's super wild, says some like crazy stuff. He's so funny though. He's a legend.
Okay.
Right? Comedy fucking legend. He's actually touring around with the Danger Cats boys now.
Oh,
yeah, they've been doing a bunch of shows, and like Brian is just so cool. But like again, didn't know him, right?
Yeah.
So John goes, oh, I think Brian Holtzman and friends at the mothership on, I think it was like a Wednesday, right? It's the late show Wednesday. And I already had tickets for the early show Wednesday. I think it was, what's that comic's name? God, it's going to kill me. Hassan? I can't remember his name, but he runs a show there, just like a book show. Great show. It's like Hassan and Friends or whatever.
Oh, sick. Okay.
And I was going to go to that first, but then I was going to meet up with John and Brian after. I'm going to go see Brian's show.
Oh,
right.
Sick. Okay.
So I'm like, this is going to be an amazing night. I go in, and very different energy this night, right? This is a couple months later. I think the first time I went down was maybe in the summer, and then I went down maybe a couple months ago, maybe like 4 or 5 months ago. And it was way different energy, way more like laid back. Like people were laughing. I'm like, oh, okay, this is kind of what I expected. I go in and got to see, like the first show I got to see, there was an open mic, and there was some amazing comedy, some dog shit comedy off the top too. But it's open mic, right?
Yeah,
and that's so cool that happens at a place like the mothership, like that. It's true open mic comedy. I was quite taken aback by that. Then I get to see like a book show, which like with like Brian Simpson and who's my boy? This is gonna kill me. I'm such a dickhead. I can't remember his name. Craig Cognate.
No way,
so,
bro.
But here's the thing. Craig Cognate was just in Edmonton a couple weeks before this, and I went and saw him. Like, oh, this guy's chill as shit. Like, I really liked him. And again, I don't like to ask for nothing. I just like good guy, and I just I knew he smoked weed because he was talking about smoking weed. So I went to the weed store, got some, and I just grabbed one of those 3-packs. Remember those 3-packs came out with like the tiger blood and they had the 3 flavors, and all 3 were just amazing. And I was like, oh, I'll buy him that, right? He's in Canada, give him some Canadian weed. So I just like after the show, I was just like, oh, I got you some weed and stuff. And he was like, oh, I'll stay and smoke. I was like, fuck, I got my daughter. I'd love to stay and smoke with you, right? And we're just chilling and vibing, right? Like he seemed like a good chill dude, right? And I was like, oh, and I respect him as a comic. He was very funny. It's just being nice, right? And then I see him on the show, and I'm like, oh, damn, like that's my boy, right? Like not thinking anything of it. Like he probably doesn't even remember me, whatever. But he fucking murdered, like, because like I got to see him do an hour in Edmonton, right? And that's different with an hour. You have to take people on a ride and stuff. When you have 15 minutes, you can go a little harder, and you can just try and fucking kill. And he killed. He did so good. It was awesome. Like just saw him have an awesome set, right? And everybody's having awesome sets. It's just murderers row,
That's
row.
insane.
Yeah,
Even 2 people you lifted, bro.
Oh, dude, and like that's the thing. I'm just forgetting, but there were so many. It was just stacked, comic after comic, right? And then they call Matt McCusker, who does the podcast with
Shane Gillis.
Shane Gillis, thank you. God, I'm so good with names.
Bro, there's so many,
right?
you know.
Right? But I'd never seen him do stand-up. I'd seen him on the podcast times, but I'd never seen him do stand-up. He goes up fucking murders. I was like, damn. And I think maybe Tim Simpsons was after that, but like I'm just like, this is so murderous. This is so cool to see in this like little kill box, just everyone murdering. And then they go, all right, up next is a special guest. Like, we're very happy to have him. He just moved here. Everyone give it up for Shane Gillis. And the room comes unglued, dude. Unglued. Everyone's freaking out. Like, we all know what we're about to see, right? And like, phones are locked up. And he comes out and he says, he's like, okay, the phones are locked up. You'll never see this on a special. This is going to get wild. And did like, because it was so crazy because I got to see such hard murdering in that room, and to see someone like take that and just like blow the roof. I was like, oh, I didn't know you could kill this hard. Like, because like everyone was doing really well. It was a really great show, and he like almost doubled it. It was nuts. Like one of the craziest 15-minute kill, probably the craziest 15-minute kill I've ever seen in my life. So like, I'm just like, this is wild. And funnily enough, Hassan, the guy that runs it, if I have the fucking name right, might have this completely confused, but he put himself at the end of the show, and he did all right. But like, it was just like, you can't follow that, right? Like, it was like, oh man, you should just put Gillis at the end, dude. Like, so like he goes up. So I just see this amazing show. I'm just on cloud 9. I'm just like, oh, you know, like fucking just like walking out of this place, and I'm supposed to meet up and see another show there.
Right.
So I walk outside. I see John there. He's got a fucking, I was smoking cigars the whole time because he smokes cigars. So we were just smoking cigars. We were just sitting on his deck till 5 a.m, smoking cigars every night, talking comedy. So he hands me a cigar. How was it? I'm telling him all this story. Craig Cognate walks out. I'm like, hey man, great set. And he remembered me. He's like, oh, you gave me weed, right? And like, so then we're vibing, hanging out with Cognate and stuff. Then Brian Holtzman walks up. And like, he's a comedy legend. I'm just, you know, a little peon there, but is so nice. Shakes my hand. Where are you from? Like, just the nicest guy. He's friends with Craig, so we're all vibing and stuff. Go up. Then we get different wristbands because like we're with Holtzman, so we get like a different color wristband than I had at the start. We get walked up there, and like where you're sitting in, like the little room has kind of the main layout, just like a normal rectangular room, right? Stage here. Bunch of seating around, and then kind of back, and then there's a big wheelchair ramp up here, and then an up top part, and it goes back into like the green room and the kitchens and stuff. And that's like where the comics hang out. But because we had the wristbands, we get taken right back up to the back wall with the booths. I'm walking and I'm like, this is so cool. As I was just in this room, now I get to, and I'm sitting up there the whole time when I'm in the show. I'm watching the show. I'm also looking at which comics are coming out and stuff, and who's watching and shit, right? And now I'm up there. I walk up the fucking wheelchair ramp. I go to turn to the fucking booths, and Rogan's walking right at me. I know.
I know. Be fucking giddy and shit, but I'm like,
I was fucking giddy. I just fucking knocked the mic over. Yeah, I know. And it's just that moment of like, oh my God, this is like my, like, you know what I'm saying? And just like that weird moment where like he the fucking is eyeing me, like, just like, he probably gets this all the time. Just people, you can feel that genuine shock reaction, right? And I'm just like, move to the side, and we just kind of like fucking nipple each other. He goes into like the room, and I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, this is crazy, right? And like sat down. Craig comes and sits with me right by the door. I got to watch the show with Craig. Like, and Holtzman's back there. He's like, do you guys need drinks? And stuff. Just taking such good care of us. And because it's Holtzman's show, Holtzman's a legend. So like, people were coming in and watching the show, and like a bunch of people, like a bunch of the door guys that are all hanging out. Like I'm in the shit with like the comics back here. Like one of the cool. I'm in it, dude. And like, amazing show put on. But then Holtzman goes up to do an hour at the end, and like Holtzman's so wild, and like he's such a legend that like every comic in that building that night came to watch some of the set, and I'm right by the door. So like, I'm watching the show. Me and Craig are sitting there, right? Me and John and stuff. And McCusker walks up and just stands beside, watches the show, you know, a little bullshit. And then Gillis is there, right? And like fucking every comic in the building had to come watch. And like, I was sitting right by the door. So like, just had the wildest comedy experience like of my life. And like, Holtzman was so good. Like right before he's about to go up, he's like, are you sure you guys are fine? I'm like, dude, you're about to go on stage. Like, why are you worried about us, man? Like, but that's who he is, the person. He's just such a good dude.
Holy shit, bro. I can't believe
wow.
this story.
I know. I could,
actually am like,
yeah.
What the?
I know. It was nuts. It was so nuts. And I'm so thankful. And just like, all the little serendipitous things that just like have always happened to me in my life when I'm like living the right life and like doing the right things. Just shit like this happens to me all the time. And like that's a big thing of like, this is actually really fucking deep. Well, it's talking about, that's such a weird thing to say before you say something, just telling people it's gonna be deep.
Yeah, hey, you're gonna be impressed by this.
Yeah. It's more weird than anything of like when I finally started, like I knew I wanted to do a podcast. I always knew I wanted to do comedy too, but like podcasting is what I started first. And like it was Lex Friedman on Joe Rogan. I think it was maybe his second time on, but I heard the first one and I like fell in love with it and stuff. And then he started his podcast and I think he came back and he was talking with Joe about like how like manifestation is the wrong word for it, but it kind of gets you into the ballpark of just like more like simulation theory of like, this is my simulation. And if I like believe it, I can do anything. And like when I do, things just seem to work out. And if you just trust your gut and like go with it. And like, as he was talking, it felt like he was describing me and that like unlocked something in me of like, cause for years at this point, I'm just working this crazy job, just trying to keep my head on the rails. And then when I'd have my free time, I'd go run at the track or whatever, listen to podcasts. And I would just fantasize about starting a podcast. But in my head, you needed some special thing, right? Like, cause like all the only podcasts I knew like started with like stand up and that's like what broke me. So I'd fantasize about like stopping a robbery or something and getting some sort of fame. So I could start a podcast or like doing that. And I would just fantasize about it all the time, but I couldn't just like be like start. And then I heard like someone was like, oh, that's me. I just need to start this and this will work out. You just have to have faith in it. And just like from that moment, it was like, okay, I'm going to do this. I need to do this. Right. And it took me a little bit longer than that, but that was like that moment. And that's always been kind of what articulates me and makes me want to do this and why I do it the way I do, because it's like, yeah, a lot of times it'd be easier just to like do what everyone else is doing and not make waves and do that. But like now I wouldn't be true to myself and like this thing that I'm pursuing. And it has worked out so amazingly. I'm so lucky. Like I have such an amazing family. I have such great friends. I have such a great support system. And like that has all come from living life a certain way. And like if I keep doing it and then you just, you keep doing it, you go in scared. I didn't know what that trip to Austin was going to be.
And look what you were rewarded with.
Oh, dude, and the rest of that trip, fuck, that was just the beginning of that trip. It was such a, like, yeah, but like that shit happens to me all the time, right? Like, I've just like, yeah, leaning into that more and just having faith in that like, yeah, if you do the things that scare you and you push past, like some really cool shit's going to happen. And that was just such a cool, like,
example of that.
Yeah, exactly. Like just a very condensed, like
here's a taste, bro.
Here's a taste. Exactly. Like this is what you're working towards. Yeah, like keep going.
And I love that because because that's really, so even the company that operate Prime Purpose Movement, that's where it comes from. It's from having a primary purpose. What is your, why are you doing, what's leading you? Because it's like, dog, if you pick something and you follow it, it will show you the way as you're doing it.
100%.
It's like, bro, it gets clearer.
Yeah. Jordan Peterson talks about that all the time. Pick something and aim at it. Whether you hit it or miss it, it's going to take you to that target that you can then see the next one. And like, it might take you down some shit of like, like I know I love podcasting. I know I love stand-up, but there might be something I love even more that hasn't been invented yet. Some sort of weird shit, right? Like podcasting wasn't around 15 years. Well, it was a little bit 20 years. I've been using 15 years for so long, but it's been around longer, right? Like 20 years ago, right? And like, had I like really like, if you could take me back to 20 years ago and what I wanted, right? I would have been 10, I guess, 20 years ago. So maybe a little bit, like say like 15. I didn't know but I didn't even know podcasts existed. But like, I was so unsure of what I want to do and trying to like do all these things. And I'm going to go get a business degree and all this stuff. And I didn't really know what I want to do. It's like, oh, the thing you really wanted to do didn't exist to you yet. Right. But like pursuing just like, okay, well, I don't know what, I'm just going to, try and be the best person I can be, try and have some fun and meet cool people and just be surrounded by that. And that opened the doors to it. Right. Of like, went to Lister Hall in university, right? Didn't know like really what I want to do. I knew I wanted to do business. I knew I loved business and I had a passion for that, but I didn't really know what I was doing. But then I found Lister and like the community there and like dodgeball and ran that dodgeball league for a bunch of years. And like that taught me more about business than fucking any nerd in fucking school taught me at all. Not even close. Right? Like about like hiring and firing and like budgeting and actually like interpersonal relationships of a dynamic where you are above someone and like how, and more than that of like how you operate and how that changes you. Like who are you with power? Right. And like I had to learn that lesson. That was not like I saw some shit in myself I really didn't like and like took some huge growth out of that, changed me as a person. Right. Like, but I didn't know where I was going. I was just following passions, right? I'm passionate about this. I'm passionate about dodgeball. Let's do this. I'm passionate. And then you graduate and you go into a fucking spiral. what the fuck do I want to do? But then you find the passion where you can, it opens up a door to an opportunity, and you follow that for a bit, and you find podcasts, like, and it just, as long as you're pursuing something and you're staying in that forward momentum, the next doors will open. It's just sometimes the fear of not knowing what to do stops you from doing anything at all. But it's just do something.
And do anything.
Do anything. Exactly.
And whatever.
And when you get signals of something that, oh, I should be doing more of this, do more of it, right? Like lean in. Yeah. Like, oh, you know, like, yeah, I've only done comedy for less than 2 years, but like from the first time I stepped on stage, I have been all in. Not half in. And like, luckily I was already all in on podcasting. I'd already like kind of jumped into the artist life in this other frame. So it made it a lot easier. But like, that's the difference between me and a lot of people, is like, I came into this whole hog, and that's what turned people off to me a lot too, of just coming in with a very intense energy right at the start where you don't know fuck all.
Right? People hate that. It's threatening. And to some people, absolutely. You know, someone who's been doing, especially if you're coming in wanting to shake shit up. 100%. People hate that you're authentic. People hate people. The crowd loves it. Other people hate it. You know,
people are intimidated by it.
Because they see someone trying when they know that
highlights insecurity.
All reflection of self. You know, it's all reflection of self.
And it's just, there's so much insecurity in comedy that there's so much to highlight, right? Like that does in any industry, that will highlight insecurity in people. It happens in business. It happens in everything. But there's just so much insecurity to go around that, like, when you do ignite that, it is a firestorm. It feels like a firestorm. It's fuck all. It's fucking nerds that I really couldn't give a shit about at the end of the day. Because all the funny ones are super cool with me and they're my friends. And like, I was talking to someone about this the other day of like, I'm so bad at this, but if you could take me to like when I was 3 months into comedy and I felt like nobody, like I was going through the same shit, but it was like, okay, if you could name me of like, okay, in a year and a half from now, who would you want to be friends with? And I could like name the people. That's exactly who I am friends with now. Right. And those are the people that care, and like the people that I still have respect for and like have completely met up with my expectations and kept getting better and stuff. And the people that I was like at the start, like, oh, everybody likes this guy, but I think like, oh, nice enough guy, but they're terrible. Like, I don't have any respect for them as a comic. They're not authentic. They're not really trying it. They're really phoning it in. They've continued to be that. Right. And I hope for everybody that everyone can take that try. I want us all to win and stuff, but it's like all the people that are, you know, talking shit and slinging stones are not the people that like really matters. And it's tough because as much as I can say that, sure doesn't stop it from hurting. Yeah,
of course.
Right? Like it still sucks. And I want everyone to like me. I don't want to, you know, I don't want to be that person, but I'm not going to sacrifice who I am to make them okay with it. Yeah. Right. But that's a weird balance to walk. Right.
And because it's, you know, and this is one of the reasons why I stopped doing so many shows, and I stopped going. I used to do, you know, all the networking and all the, I was at every event. I was shaking. I was fucking at every show,
moving and shaking,
you know, all the time. And then I was just like, I'm not even showing up to those things as the person that I want to be. Yeah. So what am I doing? You know, it's like, why am I going there to fucking be a clown, you know, pretend to be somebody that I'm not, to try and get someone who I don't really even like or know to be like, oh yeah, I like this fucking guy. Why? That word doesn't do anything for me 100%. Except stroke my ego, you know? And so then it's like, now when I take these times back where I like sit back and I'm like, okay, well, let's do things not like everyone else is doing things, because everyone's doing that and that's not the way I want to go. You know, just because that's the path traveled by everybody, you know, and it's like, because music's a little bit more carved out than the comedy world is. You know, you can literally go to school to become a musician. It's like, so
there's a little bit more of a path. As nebulous as the path in music is, it's a damn sight more concrete than what we got.
Absolutely. Like, you know, it's like if you really wanted to, it's like to become a concert violinist or something is a realistic, very, it's like if you go to school and you do all of these,
if you work your ass off,
pretty good, you know, while being stand up, it's what are you gonna do, bro? You know, or being just a any kind of authentic creator, because if you're being authentic, you automatically typically don't fit. I say that because some people do fit that mold. That's who that is for. You know, it's like there were people that fit in a mold and
and there's industries that are so good at commercializing that if you do that, you will have a, like that. This is the thing, like it sucks when you're talking comedy because like people want to talk like success, but success can be different things. It's like, to me, success is like you're talented at being a comedian, but to everyone else it's like, oh, you make money. It's like, those are two,
people know who I am.
Yeah, those are two diametrically opposed things. The people that come through Edmonton with 40,000 followers and like have a TikTok following, they're usually dog shit. But everyone loses their mind. Oh my God, this guy is him. He's got 40,000 followers on TikTok. It's like, they're dog shit. Who cares? Like, I don't give a fuck about this person. I forgot their name the second I saw him walk on stage. He's like, this guy sucks.
Yeah.
But like, that's the end. We're all in. Everyone wants that to be the thing that works because it's something tangible that everyone will just lie to themselves and say, oh, that's the thing. But it's like, okay, well, why are we putting success on like, okay, you can do the road in Canada and make 60 grand a year, busting your ass to like do this? Like, is that success? To some people, it is. And taking how hard comedy is and what a fucking unbelievable mind warping achievement that is to make 60 grand in comedy in Canada doing that. That is like unbelievable. And like, it sucks to like, it feels like I'm always talking shit about that, but I have such a respect and love for anyone that can do that. That is unbelievable. Yeah. That like, because I know how hard that is, and nobody in the world can even fully understand how difficult that is. But I don't think that's what we should all be aiming for as like the bar of what we should be doing. We should be aiming higher. We should be wanting to fucking like watch the American model, watch what happened when podcasting took over comedy a few years ago. That hasn't happened here. Like we're still stuck in the dark ages of it, but like I don't plan to be, you know, or like I'm not that comic. I don't have the skill set yet to transcend that, but that's what I'm going for. And like, I'm not gonna, you know, belittle myself to the point of pretending that I'm not pursuing that because I'm not there yet. I'm going to call my shot. Like Andrew Schultz, I listened to him all the time before I ever started comedy. He always talked about like, I want to be the best comedian in the world. He's like, do you think there's a cheetah alive that doesn't think I'm the fastest thing on the planet? Right. Wow. And every fucking cheetah's head, I'm the fastest thing on this fucking planet. Right. And you have to have that. There might be something faster, but like, if you don't have that, you never will be. Yeah. You have to have that belief in like, yeah, you know, you're not there yet, but like, I'm going to be. And that's like what you pursue. And like, I always had that with podcasting. For some reason, it's easier for podcasting with me of just like, I have such a deep faith in like who I am and what podcasting is, of like, if I keep doing this and I keep working on myself and becoming more authentic and getting more comfortable just to share who I am, I think I'm interesting, and I think I have enough passion. I think I'm intelligent enough to be that person. Yeah. And I had that, and I was always very confident. But then when I started stand up, and you just get that dose of reality of like, oh, like, yeah, you're talented, but this is hard and you suck. Yeah. Right. And like that, and that has been a mindset, and that has stopped me from, that has really put the podcast on a different part, and I haven't done it. This is what, okay, I've been wanting to do this the whole time. I have a question for you. Please, bro. And I finally found an opportunity. First, I want to address one thing you said like an hour ago. Okay. You were talking about like every couple of years having like a big public failure, right? And you said in that moment, you said, I have these big public failures because I swing big. Yeah. Right. And I appreciate that so much. And I think that deserved to be like jump back to, because like that's what I love, especially with comedy. The people that'll go on stage and have a middling set, like a pretty decent set with the same 5 minutes I've seen them do for 3 years now, or 2 years now. Right. Yeah. Or someone goes out and kind of bombs it, but took some swings or tried something. Yeah. I have so much more respect for that. Like, and that's, and you see the people that do that get so much better. And like, there's just like this institution of like, no, we just run the same 5 minutes and we sharpen and we sharpen. Yeah. That's what everyone said. And like the guys that have done it for 10 years always tell us. So then it just trickles down. It's like, I don't know if that's the best way, right? I like guys that swing. That's our way for sure. And it will like, and it probably is the way if you want to take that standard, if you want to get on JFL and CBC and do like this path that's great. Yeah, that's probably the way to do it, right? Write some hacky shit and polish it, right? Like that's pretty much the fucking, all right, but that's not what I respect. I have no respect for that. But like in any industry, I like the people that swing, right? And like take those big swings. So I just wanted to pit stop there to give you the flowers for that. Cause like, fuck yeah. Keep doing that, man. That's what it's all about. Keep swinging big. Fuck, fail big too. 100%. Fail big, baby.
Because it's like that. And then we're able to have these conversations where it's like, okay, you've tried some shit. Yeah. I've tried some shit.
Exchange lessons. Cool. Yeah.
Okay, this 100%. They're my favorite conversations to have. And it circles back to what I was even saying closer to the beginning, where it's just like, I love when people are just doing shit.
Yeah. You know? 100%, man. So like where I've been curious about the whole time is like, so recently the podcast has taken a big backseat from, I've just been so all in on comedy. I feel like I've also entered this really weird realm with comedy where I get so insecure and it's tough for me to go on and be as honest as I want to, because I want to talk about all this stuff and like, yeah, this guy sucks, this guy's great, this is this guy's problem, right? Like I want to be open about it. Like I'm not scared of this. I think it's good. I think it's gonna make everyone better. But you don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. And you don't. I already feel so hated, and it's already so shitty to go to like most of these comedy shows and just feel like I'm not wanted here by a good majority. And the people that actually care about do want me there. And like this is all in my fucking dome. I know this, but it's still the feeling you get, right? Yeah. So it's kind of pulled me back from, but it's such a source of passion for me, and I miss so much. Like just doing that podcast the other day, just jumping back into it. Like when you hit me up to do this, fuck yes, I love podcasts. Let's do this, right? Like, but I miss it so much. Knowing that you have taken time off doing live performance, I want to know, like, what has that been like for you? Like, what is the mindset around it? What has been the thought processes behind taking that time? How has it affected you? Do you miss it a ton? Do you have like different kind of nerves because it has been a while? Like, as you're ramping up to get back onto the live stage, what has that whole process been like?
Yeah, that's a fascinating question.
That's a question I've wanted to ask since we talked about it. That has been on my brain for hours here.
Because when I come, it's a fantastic. So yeah, I was saying no to a lot of things for a while. I think the last time I performed, I was at the Moon, and it was for some weed thing. It's just I was like, okay, I'll come smoke some weed, and I think that was a few months ago, and but again, it wasn't. I played a couple tracks, and it wasn't anything. And even the show this week, it's my homie Eric Kane's show, and we have a song together called "Slow Down," and he's been asking me to but we dropped the song kind of right when I was like, I'm not.
So
he's been trying to get me to do for like try to. I'm like and I have a hard time. Because I'm so comfortable being in front of a group of people. I ran I still do run boot camps occasionally for schools and stuff. Like
I've coached
being in front of some. I never get nervous anymore. That's not to say that I don't get excited but it's just like that fear of being in front of people is no longer.
It's not what it used to be.
It's not even close. I've been in front of so many.
How long have you been performing live?
My first club show was at 18.
Okay.
So now I'm 30. So and that was like first time selling tickets. Like, and before that I was in kind of like I played piano in like a wedding kind of thing. We did a couple weddings. We tried out for Canada's Got Talent.
Oh yeah.
And then I did, talent shows with homies before. So I've been performing since like junior high.
Okay. So
it's like,
and that's why that fear isn't the same. you've earned that. You put those reps in.
And that's also why I where I see other musicians is like, oh, you have to get your reps and reps. It's like, I've been in front of so many people for and then on top of boot camps, I used to run weekly boot camps. Adults, children, handicap community, it's like
you've seen it all.
I've seen it.
You're
all,
like a comedian at this point.
Like, bro, it's like little girls will heckle me while I'm doing the boot camp. Oh, you're not that strong. It's
shut
the fuck.
Yeah. You want some?
So it's like, oh man, I wanted to get the little kids are the hardest.
Yeah, I bet.
And so it's like I don't feel the same need to, because again, as a musician too, I don't feel like I have to get better in front of people. Like, I set my goal as an artist, especially just in general, is from a music standpoint, it's very simple. It's write the best song that I can. Yeah. And so what do? I spend most of my time sitting and writing songs. Yeah. What are you doing? I'm writing songs. Every day, 4 hours every day. We write songs. We write shitty songs. We write good songs. We write songs. That's what I do, And so, but I like to connect with the audience as well. I like to, and so I do miss it, but I miss it differently now, because before I would being an artist, and it's like when you go and, my biggest song is Warrior, and that song is big to me because I remember doing this show, my boy Andrew was there. He's playing guitar, and we're doing like an electric guitar hip hop set. And it's just me and the guitar, and I'm rapping over these tracks. And there's maybe it's a festival, but there's maybe 25 people, but this room maybe fits 50 or 75. But it's a fairly small show, and you know, other than Andrew's mom, I didn't know anybody else.
Yeah.
And so I go and I do the Warrior track, and the person sitting front row dead center is rapping it word for word.
No.
Yeah,
That's fucking cool.
I'm like, and I'm almost like caught. I'm like,
Yeah.
huh?
Yeah.
So I was like,
Yeah.
what the fuck? You know this song?
Yeah.
And that's an insane feeling as an artist, you know.
I bet.
When I have a song that I know, especially if it's my crowd, and I play this song, it's game over.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it's party time now. You know, everyone's having a good time, and but I also know that it's the power of that song, and you know, and it's like, and so it's like that's almost like what the addicting part is to me. It's like, okay, now I know what it's like. I write all these songs. I have all these songs. Some of them are for me. Some of them are to share. Some of them are to try things, whatever. But now how I see the live experience, as opposed to, okay, this is where I need to grow my fan base, or this is where I need to pitch a t-shirt so I can make rent, or, you know, especially before where it was very money driven. I'm trying to do these festivals. Why? I'm trying, because I like, you know, I have this dream of what a perfect show is for me, and what I want to, you know, and so it's like I have these bigger. I've not saying that I can't put more time in on the stage. You can always get better at the stage performance, but it's like I've done all the shitty bar shows here. I've done all of the shitty bars. In fact, a lot of the bars that I performed at aren't open anymore. And then I performed at the bar that opened up after that. You know, and 100%. After that, and you know, I've done the Jubilee. I've done, you know, I haven't done Rexall, but Rogers.
I know what you meant. I was with you.
That was old school.
Northland.
You know, so I have aspirations, but now I have different aspirations with the live performance. You know, I don't need to go and win over the audience anymore. It's like I'm so confident in the songs that I have that I don't care if you don't like them. I like them, and they mean something to me. So if you don't like this, then this isn't for you. I'm not morphing this anymore. You know, where I was always trying to, okay, a lot of people get very confused when they hear my music for the first time, because there's a lot of perceived notions of what rap is. And that's the title I go as as a rapper. And then they listen to a track and they're like, oh, you're not rapping about bitches. You know, it's like, wait, what the
When are you going to kill somebody?
Like, what the fuck is this? And so it's like, and even we're pitching a lot of my catalog for sync right now, and everyone's responding back like, oh, like, this is interesting. Like, what the fuck is this?
Where did this come from?
Where are we putting you? You know, where, because it doesn't, but that's what I've worked on this whole time. And now when I step on stage, I like to step on stage with more of a purpose than just trying to get the reps in. It's like, now I'm trying to, when I step on stage, it's like, okay, and don't get me wrong, music can also be fun. And sometimes that's the purpose. You know, I got songs that are just about smoking weed, or they're just rapping fast and it sounds cool. You know, there's a balance between both of those things too. And so it's like, I think nowadays, because I was showing up to so many shows and they're like, you can't swear, you can't talk about weed.
I know all about this.
Or you can't say, you know, and it's like, I'm done playing those shows. It's like, I don't make art for you. And it's like,
you've earned being done with those shows.
I appreciate you saying that, you know, I appreciate but I do feel
you've taken those lessons from those, right? Like, and you've done it. One thing, you have answered this, but I just want to ask in more of a direct way, because I feel like in that you spoke a lot about what performing live used to be to you, and why you said, and the money and these things, and the growing audience, and like what you're trying to do. And then you spoke to like, but now I want to approach it with more passion, what it is. But like, can you just speak directly to like what it is? Like, after learning those lessons, what is it that you try to get out of it, and why are you doing it now that it's changed like that? Can you just speak directly to that? Like, what is pulling you to the stage now? And like, because what are you trying to accomplish?
Before, I think it was the ego of being a rapper. You know, it's like, oh yeah, people think that this title is cool, that I walk around and I say I have a rap show this Friday. People like to come to the rap show. People like to clap. People like to participate. People like to get fucked up. People like to party, you
Uh-huh.
know, and I was the guy you
Yeah,
could go do
you were,
that with.
and you were supplying that.
I
Yeah,
was like,
and that's a bit of a drug in itself too.
absolutely. And then when you can accomplish all that, and then at the end of the day, people are clapping for you.
Yeah.
Oh, fucking just
Maybe get some
Jordan.
pussy and
Yeah, and then you get and that's another thing to struggle with is the women.
Yep.
And you know, of course, and that's
Mhm.
still a constant.
So, yeah, that battle will never end. Yeah, god damn it.
You know, and there was but I've always been purpose driven, and even on the cover of my first album, it says I always kind of have like a thing with every era of album that I'm in. And my first one, Life, was I want to be great. What do you want to be?
Yeah.
You know, and that's, you know, and it's like I thought greatness was because greatness was bitches and money and sold out shows and people clapping.
Yeah.
But I also understood that, oh shit, the music I'm making isn't that, you know, I'm not making these Drake tracks. I'm not making these tracks that are going to create the kind of wealth that I think, because I have this image of, I'm a hustler. I'm going to get all this money and I'm the best. And now it's like, okay, I am the best. You know, that's one thing that hip hop teaches you for sure. 100% is confidence. You know, it's like, cockiness as well, but confidence number one. No one wants a self-hating rapper. Yeah, that maybe comedian. Yeah, you know, self-deprecating comedian. But
even then, everyone tries to do self-deprecation, but like there's a trust thing with the audience where like if you don't have it, if you do self-deprecation without true confidence underneath it, everyone pulls back. Everyone pulls, and you see it all the time, guys. And it's like, I see what you're trying to do there, but you gotta have a little bit more confidence. You gotta do it with a little bit of a smile, or we're gonna lose. Yeah. We'll believe you if you tell us you suck. We'll believe you.
Okay, bro.
Yeah, like if we can tell you think you suck up there, we're gonna feel it.
Yeah, you know, and so that's a powerful thing to just step on stage and it's like, okay, all eyes are on you, bro. And it's like that's an addicting feeling too.
For sure,
like,
it is. Yeah.
And it's like now none of those things are what interests me. So it's like, so when it's now looking, you know, that's what I wanted. Yeah. I wanted, come to my show. Yeah. I make $10 a ticket. There's $10 right there. Yeah. And now I know you're gonna buy a t-shirt when you're there too. Yeah. Now it's like, okay, so now it's like I'm getting all these dopamine hits and I get a nice check at the end of it too. But then when I started to pursue shows and I tried to make them more artistic and I started to hone into more of the artist that I'm trying to be. And I say trying to be because I think it's impossible to fully be the artist that you have in your head. It's a pursuit. And so it's like, but now I'm more clear upon that path. So it's like, then it was easier for me to say no to almost everything, you know, and where it was like, oh, Jay, you know, where before it was like, anytime I could go step on the stage. Oh, for sure. I'll go to this show.
You were in your open mic period.
You know, absolutely.
Any stage time you can get. Yeah.
Let's go. But it's like the intentions were bad and I wasn't showing up I wasn't showing up as the person that I wanted to be. You know, and then it's like
story as old as time. Yeah.
The fans that you don't want. You know, it's like, oh, I did this wrong, you know? And it's like, okay, let's restart. And then that's kind of where Olympus, anyways. Yeah. It always comes back to Olympus.
It always does. Yeah.
So now it's like, okay. And I took a program, Canada Music Incubator, and it's like an artist entrepreneurial program. The dude who co-founded it was the vice president of Sony Records.
Damn, big deal.
Very incredible experience that I got to do, and I got to learn so many things. And it was they mentioned this thing, and at the time I was like, whatever. But now it's something that I think about all the time.
Yeah, rings true.
What's the purpose of you doing that show? What's the purpose of doing that show? And if it feels like I'm doing it for the wrong reasons, I just won't do it anymore. Yeah. Well, before I'd be like, you go do it. Go do it. Yeah. You need to do it.
And that is an important phase to be in, but you have to have it. There needs to come a demarcation where you find that self-respect to believe, and it's a self-belief too, to change that, right? Like comedians have a very similar thing. You mentioned earlier, you're saying your idea for the first album was like, I want to be great. what do you want to be? Or I think I fucked that up, but what did you say, right? And then you described what greatness was to you at that time, and that was money and bitches and all these things, right? But like, I still get from you a lot of energy that you're still chasing greatness, but it seems like greatness has changed for you, like of just like what that is. What is that to you now?
Oh, great question. So now for this album, my catchphrase, mantra is more love, more success.
Much healthier.
Much healthier.
I still like the first one though. I was like, damn, I like that. Yeah.
I don't know. It's just something that like I'll say it's said on songs, it's referenced.
Say it one more time.
More love, more success.
More love, more success.
And what's important with that phrase is more love comes first.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like
and that's what success comes from.
And it's like there's no second part without the first part. It, to me, define it however you want, but it's like I see it differently.
I got goosebumps right now. I love that shit, dude.
Bro. And that so people are like, one of the things that I'm doing right now, and I've been pitching it for fucking years and it's still not out yet, is Olympus, and that it's only coming out on vinyl.
Yeah.
And there's only gonna be 1,000 of them, and everyone's still like, why the fuck? Why, bro? It's like how is anyone gonna find you? How is anyone? It's like it's not for that. It's this album is a piece of art that I was like, there's gonna be 1,000 copies, and it's for those 1,000 people only. Yeah. And everyone's like, well, what about all the? It's not for them, know. And it's like, it's so.
And it'll and the people that are meant to hear it, it'll find their way to them. That's what it is.
And that's how I feel. And it's like, because that's what Olympus 2 is for. Olympus 2 is like, hey man, this is the stuff I made for everyone else. Yeah. It's when I came out of that mushroom trip, when I came out of the darkness, when I came out of the failures, I was like, okay, there is part of the story that I think everyone should hear. Yeah. And that's what Olympus 2 came from, where it's like, these tracks, they're not for everyone. They weren't made. They were always made for a vinyl record and someone who's either going to just take this and hold on to it and understand, okay, there's a group of songs here that only a few of us will have, and there's the value in that. Jay wrote these for 1,000 people to hear, and maybe those, maybe a circle of friends. It's not made for 1 billion people. I didn't make this in mind for those. I made Olympus 2 for that.
And then if you do it that way too, if someone fucking rips the vinyl onto an MP3 and it starts to make its way to people, that's just that's the art finding its way. That's life finding a way. That's fucking Jurassic Park shit right there, right?
Bro.
And it will, right? And people hear Olympus 2 and they really fuck with the shit, they'll find someone. Maybe they'll find throw it on social media. Has anyone got that vinyl? Has anyone got that Olympus 1, right?
That's what it is, bro.
And it'll make its way. I love that. I think that's fucking deadly, dude.
Bro. Thanks, bro. It's been interesting because I mean, I've been talking about it for years, literally. And it's crazy how shocked, because again, it goes back to just doing something that's different than everybody else. Why aren't you releasing every single song on Spotify 1 month at a time?
Or you're doing a song a week,
like,
J. Cole or whoever did it,
it's like, bro, it's like it's not. And so then it's the same thing with the way I want to perform as well, where it's like, okay, bro, I'm not the artist that I don't have the songs. I do have the songs. I don't have the intentions, is what it is. I got to stop blaming it on my resources. And it's not. I'm saying no because most of the time now I would much rather just be working on a song. Yeah. I would much rather, my focus is very
on the art.
It's like I'm trying to be the best artist for myself. It's like, it's selfish as that is, and it's like, because it seems
it's the only way to actually find, if your vision of success is that true vision of success of like actually fully utilizing everything you could be capable of, that's the only way to it. Right.
And then it's now made, it's like, even just doing this, I'm going and doing one song on Friday night. Yeah. And people are messaging me like, you're performing at this show? Yeah. I've been waiting to hear this song. Yeah. And then it's like, okay, now it's something special again. This is cool.
You've reconnected with that stuff that got you started. Yeah.
It's like, okay, there's something here that somebody is emotionally invested in, and that's cool to me.
Man, that is just it. This is hitting me so hard right now because of taking the time off the podcast. Like, it's actually kind of making me emotional a little bit of like, it's been very tough for me to let the podcast kind of fall because I'm so passionate about it. It felt like that's what I needed to do to be able to just keep sane with what I was pursuing, with all these shows, and the Friday shows take so much out of you just emotionally and stuff. But then to have like over like a 2-week period, a bunch of people that like I care about be like, man, I really miss the podcast. Like I'd really like to hear it again. Just like, and then another one, and then another one. I was like, fuck. And then to do it, like, oh, I miss it. I don't realize how I miss this too. But it's like reconnecting with that thing of like, you kind of get lost in it of like the excitement when you start and like you get to hear all the, oh, I love that podcast stuff. But then you just do it for a long time. People know like, oh, he probably hears it all the time, but you don't get any like the feedback of it and stuff and like letting it miss it. And like almost like a reconnection to like, oh yeah, this does impact people. And this is like I am a big piece of people's lives when I'm consistent, when I am that person I want to be.
Absolutely.
So be that person again, right? Like refine that, because I am fucking off the rails with how I'm not the guy I need to be right now.
That's so. I was talking with another artist at dinner the other night, and because I write all the time.
Yeah.
I write all the time. That's there's
Yeah.
I'm in the middle of a million songs at any given night, and he was talking about how he's finishing up a couple songs, and how it's cool to be in the groove of songwriting.
Yeah.
And he asked me, he's like, so it's like, what is it like to be writing all the time? Because like if you know me musically, I'm always working on a song.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's just different levels of it. Like right now is a great time in the last couple of weeks, and I just on a really cool path of momentum right now where the enthusiasm is there. Where for whatever reason, the last few, whether I finished a couple songs that I was like, oh shit, this could actually be the one that's on the album. Or this is the one that I've been, oh shit, I didn't know I could do that. From a producer standpoint, and it's clicking, and more, momentum always matters as well, but there's just times of more enthusiasm and less enthusiasm.
Yep.
And I'm starting to understand that's with anything you commit to, there's the discipline and then there's the enthusiasm. And because I'm such an enthusiastic person,
same, I know, dude. I know.
It's like when our levels of enthusiasm get so high, that when the momentum is there, it's easy to have the enthusiasm. And then even sometimes when the momentum is there, the level of enthusiasm can still be there, but it's not as high as, because even on our worst days, I'm speaking for myself, but
I'm sure I'll agree.
Even on our worst days, we're more enthusiastic naturally than some.
100%. 100%. I feel that.
It's part
it's just
of
who we are. We're just passionate people. Yeah.
But to us, it's such a big drop off that I'm like, do I hate this now? Am I depressed?
Yeah. Like speaking to my soul right now. I've been through so much of the shit lately. Yeah.
And so during those periods was when I stopped performing. Because then I'm like, okay, I don't want to fake my way through being JusJrdn on stage. Yeah. So
and dude, like, there's so much there. I don't even know like where to jump in, because like, again, this is me speaking for myself, but I feel like you might feel some of the stuff of like, so much of the times, because of who I am as a person, how my brain works, I'm great at rationalizing and coming up with like stories and stuff of like why I've like, oh, I'm not in the right headspace. I probably shouldn't perform tonight. Like it won't be, and that is true. And that is me being in touch with myself too, but I can also lean into letting that be an excuse. And almost every time of like these big true things that I think separate me away and make me special and like who I am, of like being cognizant of like how I'm feeling and being in touch with myself, but also I find I can like really give myself excuses and stuff. Like that's where I was when you were talking earlier about the last couple months saying no to a lot of stuff and like having very well thought out, reasonable reasons why not. But I wanted to ask you, is there any part of you that fears that is just ego keeping you away because of fear?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, because I found that with like almost everything, and it's tough because it's like I know that it's not 100% either thing. I know it has to be a mixture of both, and like as much as I can tell myself, no, this isn't it. This is just me looking out for myself and like my mental health, and like doing this stuff, and how much of it is just me being a fucking pussy.
Yeah,
and I know that both those things are, and it's hard to give, because if I do it, if I just say no, don't be a pussy, do it, and it goes bad, then like, man, you knew better, you knew that you weren't gonna do it. But then if you step back and maybe that was the right call, I still beat myself up like, oh, you were just being a pussy. Like no matter which decision I make, it's so easy to beat myself up with the other side of that coin, because it always exists, and that's always how I am with every rationalization I have in my mind. I always have both sides. I can give a really clear solution why I'm like the good guy in the situation. I can always beat myself up and find like the worst, least considerate, like least like compassionate version of myself. Oh,
Yeah,
almost.
you know,
It is. It is all the time. But that's kind of that, and I think like that is part of like, it's at least with comedy or just art in general, like you kind of have that. And I just find I battle with that all the time. And just the way you were speaking about it, you seem so confident in the rationale and the things behind it that I'm just wondering if there was any of those fears that creep in.
Yeah, and there is, and it always goes back to the fear of not being liked, you know.
Yeah.
Which
goes back to the fear of death. Yeah, it always does. Yeah. That's why it's the worm at the core.
It is. And so it's like there definitely is it's just my fears are different now, I guess. That's a better way of saying that.
Yeah.
'Cause it's like I don't fear bombing as an artist so much. It's like, bro, all I do is this. I know I'm better than anyone who's standing in front of me. I'm better than I'm just like, bro, it's you just don't have the time. It's like you might not like me, but I'm better. I'm better than most. Like, you know, am I the greatest of all time? Maybe one day, but it's like I put in the time. I know the craft. I do the research. I learn. You know, it's like, and so it's like the fear. I'd never fear stepping on stage for the audience. Like, you know, it's like the audience is never what I'm scared of because I've been in front of the audience. That's the dragon I've slayed a million times. It's like, oh, this is fuck. Boom! I slice your head off, no problem, bro. It's like even if you don't like me, that's because I still go every once in a while, do shows, and it's not the vibe. You know? I'm playing songs for people that don't even like rap. You know, I'm fighting a losing battle from the beginning. But it's like, that's fine. I'm not losing. I'm so confident in myself as an artist that I've had friends from day one. It used to piss me off. Now I'm like, okay, I shouldn't have been so emotional back then. But it's like when I dropped my first album, I remember a group of my friends got together and told me how shitty it was.
Oh, fuck those guys. God damn.
Yeah, that was. But now I see it like you know, I'll send tracks to people and they'll shit on it, and I'm like, okay, well I respect your opinion actually. So that was useful. Thank you. You know, as opposed to being like, oh man, maybe I should quit. You know, or what the fuck was I thinking? I'm so embarrassed. What the fuck song was that? Or what kind of line was that? Or, you know, whatever. Now I'm like, that's who I was back then, man. Fuck you. You judging me? Mosh, I'm doing something. What are you doing?
Yeah, where's your songs?
So now when I step on stage, it's more. This is an interesting, because that's not a fear I have. I don't fear.
What is the fear you have?
I think that's why I stopped performing so much is not showing up as my authentic self. You know, and it's like, because I don't like doing anything now. That's why
just for the sake of doing you have a goal and what you want to do, and if you're not being that person,
I don't want to, whether it's a family dinner or a networking event, if I can't be the person that I am, I don't care anymore. That's simply what it is. I'm like, if you can't welcome what this is, I'm not welcome.
And that's like the key of like what you just said is the biggest thing. Like that's transition, that switch is the biggest thing that holds back 99% of comics. Of just, it's so easy because it's so scary to be up there. Of like, it's so easy just to do what you think the audience is going to want, and that is such death to comedy because it's you expressing what you find funny and trying to bring them to you. Right? If you go to them too much, and you have to go to them a little bit, like it's always give and take. But like, if you fall into that trap of just repeating what you know is going to work and like what you think they're looking for, it will kill you. And like in that like that's especially true on stage, but like how you operate your life, of like it's very much the same thing of like, I don't want to be around people that don't like, I'm going to be honest, and I'm going to be like, I have so much love in my heart and I want everyone to be better. And like, sometimes that's going to be harsh. Sometimes it's good, but you know, like I'm not trying to hurt you. I want you to be better. And I if I didn't give a shit about you, I wouldn't say shit because I don't care. Right. Like the really bad people that like, there's two different things: bad people and bad comedy, right? There's some amazing people that are really bad at comedy, but everyone's bad at the start, but they're amazing people. And I'm so down to help those people. Right. And like, but then there's the ones that are shit and they're not really nice to people, and they just let their ego run the show, and they will do anything to get ahead and stuff. It's like, I don't want to like, but that's not like, I'm not going to go talk like mad shit. It's just like, well, I don't care. Like we're not playing the same game.
Yeah.
We're not after the same thing. And like, yeah, you might be more talented than this person, but at least they got a good heart. And like,
that does still matter.
Oh, it matters so much, especially with because it is such an insecure thing, and like who you're around impacts like what the show's going to be, and like having like a good environment. That's why Edmonton has such good things. We have so many amazing people, right? Like, but like trying to encourage that of like, yeah, let's all get better, but let's all be good people here. And like, and part of that is being like tough love and being honest about it. Like there's so many times you see comics where every comic knows, just pick, you know, Joe Tacos, right? Like he's a comic, right? And like everyone knows that Joe Tacos is pretty good, but he's got confidence issues, and he goes up defeated on stage, and he knows he's gonna bomb, and he has bad self-talk and stuff. And we all know him. We all talk shit behind the back. Like, yeah, if he would, you know, just be a little bit more confident, right? And I could do that. There's a million different things, but everyone has that one thing, but nobody says it. Of course. Nobody is that guy of like, man, if you just do this, right? But like, I am that guy. I don't want, but, and that's the thing. And I don't do it with everybody. It takes like only certain people have certain relationships with where I'll be a little bit more honest with them, and I'll see how they take it and stuff. And we can build that up. But then there are people that will come back for more and show that. And then that built up trust in me. Oh, you can hear this? Okay, I'm going to tell you. And then you can see them get way better. And then I find that, you know, I've found certain people that can be that honest with me, because I'm not, I'm not good at, as much as I just talk shit about everyone else being bad at taking that stuff. I am too, right? Yeah, we're all this person, right? But then like, you know, like my best friend in comedy, Art Belrose, he's the fucking best. He's the shit. But he can be honest with me and tell me some shit when I'm being a fucking dickhead that like hurts so good. It's like, fuck, I needed to hear that, right? Or like Trish, like she can do it too. Like people that know me well enough to like give me that kick in the ass when I need it. It's like, oh, I need that. But then you see people go through comedy where they have friends, but none to the degree that they can build a relationship up for that honesty to really help them get over the thing. So it frustrates me to no end to watch just so many people have so much untapped potential with like it's almost everybody has one big thing that's holding them back. And we can kind of all see it, but nobody really says it. And it's like, you know, like, and what I love about the shows on the Friday nights, you know, maybe at 3 a.m. on a Friday after we've been riffing all night, maybe, and it is like a big like love fest, and all the audience is gone. It's just the comics. Lots of times that shit just comes out, and it comes out in a way, and everyone says like, yeah, I've noticed that too, but you're so good. And you do see it come out because everyone's so insecure, nobody wants to, but it's constructive. And when it comes out and you see them when they do like take it in, it's like, oh, now like that just knocked 4 months off their comedy journey because they made that realization. It's like, well, if we all just start doing this and get a little more. So now we started doing this on Tuesdays after the comics are when we all just go to the moon. We do like a comedy workshop, and if audience want to come, they can, and like we'll just hop up, work on jokes, and we'll be honest, like give tags and stuff, and like it's just starting, and there's still so many walls up, but you can see it, and it's like, okay, give this a few more months and see what kind of people, and the people that come and go through the pain of going up and hearing some tough shit and like what works and doesn't work, you're gonna get better. But it's just about building resources to allow us all to do these things, right? And like that helps me. Like it seems like I'm putting all this like selfless stuff out there of like, oh, I just want everybody, but that is selfish. If this scene gets better, I get better. If there's more, iron sharpens iron. I want everybody to be good. I want to have crazy shows. I want every show, because it kills me to put so much effort into these shows, right? And you get these people out and you put an amazing experience on. And then you have some other people that like just put on a dog shit show, right? Like they try, but they book terrible comics. And then you go out and you see like maybe 30 people went out to that show and they sit through this fucking thing. They're like, I'm never going to comedy again. It's like, fuck, you're undoing the work. Like just, if we also have a certain standard, the word will get around that. Like you go to any comedy show in Edmonton is a comedy place. You won't see a bad show, right? That will never happen. That will never exist. But like to the point, like if you can just raise that, like that average level, it will get around, and like that will bring comics, that will bring audiences, that will do that stuff. Like I know that will happen. Like, and we're already like,
you're doing the work to get there.
And they already were before I ever started comedy. Right. Edmonton had done so much work as a scene, and it was so good to begin with that I just got lucky that like just again my life just how it works that I just happen to grow up in the place that has the best comedy scene in Canada right now. Like that's convenient, but and then I also want to add my fuel to that of like, okay, that's a great starting place. How can I help this? How can I grow this? So how can I build this fire? Right? Let's get some oxygen on this bitch. Let's create resources like the Tuesday night, like the Friday night, right? Like the shows I'm starting, right? Some things to come, the podcast, right? Having conversations like this that will help everybody get better.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that's just, and it's, you hear successful people talk about it all the time. Successful, however you want.
Yeah.
But one thing that I find interesting with the way you speak and why I'm like, yeah, this guy's gonna do whatever you choose. I can see. Yeah. I have nothing but confidence.
Yeah,
in you,
I appreciate that. I feel that too on the good days.
Yeah. But one of the tangible things that I think is so beneficial to your mindset that differentiates you from others is the length of time you speak in. You're not trying to do things overnight. You're trying to do something overnight.
Yeah. And I want it to happen overnight, but I just know that's not feasible. Yeah.
But that's what's realistic, you know? It's like, okay, I want the scene to get better. That's a decade-long goal, you know, to raise up the whole city, you know. And how do you do that? Show by show,
brick by brick,
workshop by workshop, minute by minute.
Me and Belrose, like, we talk less so, but for a while there, we would talk every night from like 12 till 4 in the morning, just talking comedy, going over the stuff. And like, he has the same passion as me. Like, he wants to do something, like he is. And I love it about him, of like how confident he is in himself. And like, he's like all of us, right? Like, there's days where he's rocked and something goes wrong and he's not as confident, but like all the time, but we're always doing shit and doing a show. And after, we always call after shows how to go and stuff. And like, whether it went great or whether it went bad, you know, bricks in the wall. That's what we say all the time. Bricks in the wall. We're building the wall, baby. We're putting bricks in it. Like, just, you go do I don't know. I went and did a show on Monday.
Okay.
And it was 5 comics, 1 audience member, and the mic busted when I got up there, so I had to do it a cappella. And then like, as the comics had to go to other shows, so like as the show progresses, the comics leave, so then it's like 2 people, and it's just like, still had a good time, but it's just like bricks in the wall. You still went out, you still did it, you learned some lessons from it, right? Like, and you take that in, and that's what it is. Of like, and then sometimes it's, you know, you get to middle at the comic strip for fucking comic you've looked up to your whole life, Sam Tripoli, like, and it was like one of the coolest experiences. I got to like drive him home and like hear all the stuff from him. It's just like unbelievable. And that's also bricks, but they're all bricks. It's always, you're just putting bricks in the walls, right? And like, that's, you know, putting the effort in, like I did on I guess this was Monday too, but just like sitting there for like 5 hours messaging every fucking person on my Instagram. Like, I must have messaged 500 people, right? Like, but that's what you gotta do. That's bricks in the wall, baby. Like, that is the effort, and you keep doing that. That's what will, like, you don't build a pyramid in a day. You got to start. And like, I'm just bad at looking back and like checking out the wall we're building, because it's just always like, we got to be putting more bricks on. And like,
that's what it is.
I know I struggle with that,
being
but
appreciative of, and sometimes it takes the out, you know, and that's one thing that I think has kind of been motivating me over the last few months is maybe people that aren't even fans of the music, but are just like, wow, you've actually done a lot of things.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, you know, it's like, in my head, I weigh the failures way more than I weigh the successes, but it's like,
it's evolutionary.
It's like, dog. It's like, when you say it that way, I sound like I'm pretty fucking sick.
Yeah.
It's like, why can't I say that to myself?
I know. You know? And that's why it's good to have those people around. Like, I feel like Trish is that person for me all the time, because I'm always just like, what's the next thing? What are we doing? I'm shitty. I haven't done this. And she's good at being like, no, like, look at what you're doing. And she's so good at like forcing me to feel that and to sit in it, even though I always try and fucking move on and stuff, but she'll say it out loud, right? Like, and it's like, you need those people around you, right? Especially when you know that about yourself, that you lack that, right? And it comes 100% with how I'm raised, and like, that's how my dad is, right? Like, was like, he accomplished a lot, is like a very great man, has done a bunch of amazing things. Not the best with like the attaboys and stuff, right? Like, you know, and he's such a loving guy, but he grew up, his parents escaped the war in Germany, came with no money and started a pig farm and built everything they had, and like, that was how he's raised. Like, tons of love. Amazing. But like, comes from a play of like, it's hard love, right? And it's like, like, you'll get it when you do something really impressive, and like, but that's the thing, when you do get them, especially from him, it means a lot, right? But like, just how that reacts of just that's programming, you take that in, right? So I'm not very good at giving it to myself, because and also not good at giving it to others. But because I know that about myself, I've worked on like, I'm that guy in the scene, even if it's someone that's a fucking asshole to me that has been a totally, if they have a great set, I go up to them every time and say, hey, that was a really great set. And I don't just, because like everyone will give knuckles after set. Oh yeah, good. You know, then like, but like, no, if you think someone did good, tell them why.
Yeah.
Tell them a joke, what it was like, man, the way like you, like they weren't really on board with it, but the way you stuck in it and like didn't show any fear and like got them and then crushed at the end there, like that was awesome.
Because that's a
right?
real compliment.
Yeah.
That's a
or
real.
that new premise, like it's already funny, but like there's so much meat on the bone there, dude. Like that's awesome, right? Giving real compliments like that, because all it is nobody gives the real criticisms. Everyone talks shit.
Yeah,
everyone gives the fake. Good job, good set.
Yeah.
Nobody is willing to feel the vulnerability to give the real shit.
Yeah. 100%.
Right. And it's just like, okay, well, the only way to change that is to lead by example, and that's what I'm doing, right? And it's awesome when it's one of like your buddies that like you're really close with, and they have an awesome set. Like when me and Belrose go on the road, that's always so fun coming home because we're hyping each other up, and you get that. But like, yeah, it's even, you know, sometimes it sucks of like, fuck, this guy that like nothing in me wants to say a kind word to this person in general at all, because they're an absolute piece of shit and they've been just so mean to me, and like, fuck this person. Yeah. But like, that was impressive. Good job. And that's the thing. I don't even, when I'm going to give those words, I don't feel any of that. Like it is genuine. It's like, that really impressed me. And like, I have that ability to separate those things of like how I feel about you. And just, I love this art so much that like that goes away. When you step on stage, I just want to see like my feelings about you, whatever. Right. And not often, sometimes you can let those feelings, but like I try to do that and like, just, yeah, give that genuine information and that genuine, and like, it goes a long way. And like, not a lot of other people do it, so you don't get a lot of that back. But like, I don't know, the knuckles feel nice. Yeah, you have a good set, people give you knuckles, like, all right, sure. Because for a while there, I would have great sets, and everyone was so worried. Like, there's people that didn't like me, and they didn't know about like if they should be seen. Because everyone would be cool to me if it was just us, right? Like everyone always really liked me. But then when there's people that are that vocally against you, oh, now if I'm showing like being nice to you, what are they gonna think? And everyone was acting weird. So I'd have like a great set, and I'd come off stage and like, no knuckles, no nothing, nobody said nothing. It's just like, all right, okay.
It's not for you anyway.
It's not for you anyway. And that's what it is in the moment. Like, yeah, it hurts a little bit in the moment, but it's like, whatever, this is not for you. Like, yeah, fucking, all right, sit there and watch me fucking crush. Cool.
Yeah, word.
Cool. Yeah, I don't need to hear from you guys. But, and that has changed now. That was like a period of time, and like it's very different now. But
of course,
you go through those times where it's, but even then, even in those times when nobody was giving me my flowers, didn't stop me from giving them to everybody else, right? Right, like that's always who I'm gonna be. That's who I am at the core. I'm a super loving guy. I love spreading love. That's who I am, right? Like that's always been like yeah, my dad is like the fucking pretty hard side, and is like a super loving guy too. Just shows it in a very weird way, and just never learned more of like the usual, like maybe more feminine ways to show it.
Yeah.
But my mom is the fucking lovingest person on there, like the biggest heart I've ever met, and like is the complete opposite of that, of like just, yeah, like almost like to like a crazy degree of like just like so loving, right? So I have that too.
My mom is also
exactly. So but and that's the two sides of me. I'm like a super emotional, deep feeling guy from like my mom's side, and then have a very like dominant, want to win, like, you know, you have skills and abilities, and prove it and make something of yourself from my dad. And like those two things, I think it's hard for people to wrap their head around me a lot of times too, because I'm such a weird dude. Like, and I run the gambit of like both sides of it. So like people are always like, I think everyone always thinks I'm faking it, or like you're hiding something or something. It's like, no, this is just who I am. I just don't give a fuck. And like, obviously you are, everybody is, you're never fully, but I'm always trying to be, right? And I came into comedy after 2 years of podcasting, of going through, trying to just, that all my goal was the 2 years I did podcasting before I started comedy was, I just want to be myself authentically. And yeah, if I'm not welcome here, fuck you, like whatever, just not giving a vibe. Just like, I'm going to lean into who I am and try and work on the parts of myself that I don't like, and try and find love for the parts that like I like, of what makes me special and stuff too. And then to start comedy from that place, I think everyone's like, whoa, who's this weird dude? Like, what the fuck's he doing? Yeah.
That's a deep and complicated place to be creating laughter from.
Yeah, it is. And it's
where the real laughter comes from, you know?
It's where the real laughter comes from eventually, if you can figure it out. But there's so many incentives for you to jump off that path and just become a character, or write just some hacky shit, will work, and just keep repeating that, or just find an audience that, like, I could have so easily picked any kind of like side, both even before stand-up, like even with like, that was actually really tough for me. When I started the podcast, I was right in the middle of all the COVID stuff, and I was very much interested and did a ton of research and went into it. And I could see all these people getting huge and like getting followings of just being like the anti-COVID guys. And I'm like, oh, but that's not true to me. Of like, there is a very middle ground here. Of like, this is a very serious thing. And like, I love science, and like, that's what I'm so passionate. I love listening to like Lex Friedman, have all these like interesting people on. Like, I listen to evolutionary biologists. Like, I'm not coming at this from like a conspiracy theory way. There is some fuck shit going on that I'd also like to talk about, but like, I knew if I just leaned into that and just like wasn't true to myself and didn't try to find the middle ground and show both sides of it, I would be much more successful. But it's like, but that's not me. I'm never going to do that, because like, I have compassion. I'm not going to go call all these people dumb fucking sheep that don't know nothing. Because like, my sister is one of the most intelligent, compassionate, amazing people. And she couldn't have been on a different side of me with all the COVID stuff. But like, we still had love, and we'd have amazing conversations. And like, over years of like finding middle ground, we were able to like come to a point where we're much closer with it, and I learned from her. But it's like, okay, if this amazing person can fall into believing some of these things, like anybody can. And I have compassion for them. I don't hate them. I don't think they're sheep. I think they're trying to do the best with the information they have. And there's a huge fucking orchestrated thing that are like helping make them believe these things, but like having compassion for that, but like knowing it would be so easy. And it was tough to watch people just fucking that I know that like wouldn't even talk about COVID, but then they saw that it got them ratings, and they go, oh, I'm the anti-COVID guy. It's like, fuck off. Like, but it comes off as not true. And it's like, like, how do I trust you? Yeah. What wouldn't you say then? Yeah. What wouldn't you say? Like, I'm trying to like trust. And that's with me. It's like, I'm never going to say shit I don't believe. I might be wrong, and I'll be the first one to tell you I'm wrong, and I'll come out and be like, oh, I fucked that up. But I'm always telling you what I believe. Like, you're always getting honesty, right? Not always getting the right shit. And but like, I'm just, but I try to be clear. And again, this is a huge thing that you learn from Rogan, right? And of watching him grow and learn over the years and fuck up and say sorry and shit. It's just like, oh, that's what it is to be. But like, I'd much rather be that than just some guy trying to make some extra cash because he knows this will sell. But then we're getting into that was, you see that on stage of like going through that allowed me to like learn all the lessons and like see the good in sticking to that. So now when all the incentive structures come to me of trying to pull me away from that, I violently react. I'm like, fuck that. Stay the fuck away from me. I don't want anything to do with you, right? Like, I'm like, everybody, like, it's so hard not to talk shit. But like, just seeing all like the opportunities that everyone chased, like, okay, I'll talk this shit. I don't give a fuck. Just for Laughs was happening, right? Like the Just for Laughs, both years in comedy. Just for Laughs and like the Winnipeg Comedy Festival. Honestly, you could pick anything in Canada, because none of them mean anything. It's all dumb. But like, to watch everyone lose their mind of like, everyone's getting so competitive. I have to get my 7-minute Winnipeg Comedy Festival set filmed and like sent off. And it's like, you're so dog shit. You should just worry about getting good. Why are you even like, that means nothing. It's not going to get you anything. Why are you guys, but everyone lost their minds and then JFL, everyone loses their minds again. It's like, where are your priorities of like, what do you actually care about? So you just want to be famous? Like, if you put half the care you do about getting this fucking 7-minute like set filmed for these guys that don't do comedy, that don't do shit, that don't mean anything, you shouldn't respect. If you put half that effort into like realizing why you could be better and actually like looking inside, you would grow so much. And then maybe next year when these opportunities come around, you'd be actually ready for them. That might do something for you. But even like, other than maybe a handful of guys that I can name you right now, even if they had a crusher set for their 7-minute film, they sent it off JF and they got it wouldn't do shit for them because they don't have the talent, because they're not there yet, because they haven't put the effort in, and they're not even aware of how good they are. Like, they can't even ask that shit. Like, I'm a pretty confident guy, but even me, I'd be like, if I got that opportunity, it'd be kind of a 50-50 shot. I know I have the talent where I could just have the set of my life and crush it and stuff, but like, I'm just starting out. I'm just learning this, right? And it's like, but I'm way better than you guys, and you're fucking focused on this. Fucking build something. Start your own show. Like, go on a tour. Like, just to watch where people put their efforts blows my mind. And just especially because I just deeply, when those things come up, I just react violently. I don't want anything to do. Stay away from me. This sounds this is anti-art. Yeah. This sounds like something that's going to make me worse. I don't want to. And you see people that pursue those things and they become just the hackiest, worst version of themselves. Yeah. It's like, what are you doing?
And you see it all the time in all kinds of art.
I'm sure you do.
I mean,
I'm sure you do.
That's why we get most of, even on the highest levels, of things. It's like, that's why most art isn't good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why you can play fucking 600 pop songs with 3 chords and shit. Yeah.
There's only so many things.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're coming up on 3 hours here.
Oh, that's just getting started, baby. I could go for 8.
We could go for fucking 5 hours, no problem. But
easy money.
There was one thing I like to talk about. It's because we talk about so many things, but one thing with you is what is the vision? What is the what you're striving for, at least right now?
Yeah, and love the question. It's just, that's a tough one for me to answer because I will have different answers for that at like a bunch of different levels. Because like I have such crazy visions and like plans of like what I'm gonna do like way down the road, but like that it's almost not even worth talking about at this point because like so many more, like there's way more reasonable ones, but like I have plans for like create that like go so far outside of comedy and so far out like
very cool
that will like blow people's minds. Yeah, and it's like, and I'm so confident that I'm gonna do them. It might be in 20 years, right? And in my head, it's like, okay, well, let's cut that down to 5. Let's fucking change the world and fucking absolutely take over in the blink of an eye and just, take no prisoners. But more realistic, it's probably in 20 years. But like more directly, one of the big things is like, it's tough. The thing we talked about before, the podcast that will be hopefully coming out soon, like that has been something that was so on my mind and is such a logical next step to what I've learned. And it so allows me to take all the things I've been working on, right? Of like becoming a great showrunner, getting connections with good comics that I respect that will do my shows, the skills as a host, right? And like all the things I've learned from like putting on a production, partner with someplace like the Moon that like will allow you to care about every aspect and learn all those little like minutia lessons of like how to welcome people in, and like taking that to like the next step where I can then take all those skills and put them through like a multiplier, which you know what it is, but I don't know. I should probably just fucking say it at this one. Just fucking being cryptic and shit. So like that's something that I've wanted to do for a long time and like had fear held me back for a long time. I probably should have already done this months ago. And I had, and I was talking about it like only with a very few people. Like I talked about it with Art and I talked about it with Trish, but like, and like my family, but just fear, full fear of just, I knew it was going to be scary and I knew it was going to be an undertaking. And it's always scary to put your heart out there and be like, I really want to do this. And I promise you I can do a good job. And I know I can, but they can still say no. Yeah, it's like, that sucks. You know what I mean? But I finally did it. So I'm really excited about that. Big things is like,
but even like, because one thing that's so fascinating with you is you have so many. You are the comedian, you are the podcaster, you are the host, you are. It's like, so do you even to simplify this even more? It's like, are all of these still paths that you wish? Because I know you were even talking about with the podcasting. It's like, you missed it, you dropped that episode.
Yeah.
So it's like, are you trying to find like a more balanced approach to hit these things all more it's like it's like
that's exactly what it is. Of like what I'm looking for right now, is, and I have plans already in place to do it. Like of like what's coming. This is something I can talk about. Of like I'm gonna pick a night, probably like Mondays, and just do a live podcast at the Moon. If people want to come on show and watch it, they can. But it doesn't matter. It's just something consistently for me. I'm gonna try and get a producer that can handle some of this stuff because like. I don't know if it was on the podcast or off, but we were talking about how like right before of like trying to do this thing where you're connected, but then you're always worried about like, is this working? Is this working? And then like putting it up after, even though it's not that much work, but like writing a description, it just takes so much out of me, like just out of like my cup of like hosting a show, doing a podcast like this, nothing but fill me up. Figuring out a title for a podcast, nothing will fucking suck me dry. Yeah. Like coming up with a fucking description is scheduling guests.
What am I gonna call this one?
Yeah, so
what
like
number are we again?
So it's easy to follow up, but like of just picking a night a week, getting someone to like come in and help with that, and just pushing me to get into because it is the underpinning of all my passion is my passion for podcast. Like that is the true thing. As much as I am passionate about stand up and I love stand up and like it's just amazing. Like deep down, like I'm a podcaster to the core, right? Like that's what I love. This is what I love. Yeah, and I love that too, and that's so cool. And it's so cool that they can vibe together, and like you can fall in love with me on the podcast and want to come see what I do and come support me in a way to come see a comedy show and hopefully be impressed there, or you can just not know me from Adam. You can see me on stage, be impressed, and we'll talk after a show. Say, hey, I got a podcast, and you coming back in from that, and they feed into each other, and then I can highlight people like you. Like that's like one of the biggest things that like pushed me at the start was I was so jealous and so in awe of like what Rogan got to do, of like who he got to show me. He showed me Lex Friedman, he showed me Joey Diaz, he showed me Ari Shaffir, he showed me Tom Segura, Burt Kreischer, Jocko, fucking like all these people. And I want to do that. And I know that there's these people around, the people that I love and I want to highlight. And I'm always so good at seeing the best in people, and then to be able to have a framework where you can bring it and like having impact that way, where I can highlight these really funny people and start to change the shit of like, you know, like, yeah, right now I'm trying to do it all through like comedy shows and putting on like things like that. And that's my way of back ending away from all this industry that's completely fucked in Canada for comedy. But like in the long run, I want my podcast to be that, where fuck, it doesn't matter if you're a talented, funny comic in Canada that like is, you know, coming up against gatekeepers, come on the podcast and people fall in love and people will come see it. Right. And like be able to make that impact. And like, that's what I want it to be. But I know that coming with that you need to be podcasting. If you're going to become the best podcaster and have this impact, you need to be doing it. So like having that, where like I'm doing that every week, just continuing to grow the Friday shows and grow the Moon in general, not just the Friday shows, but the Sunday show, which is amazing, right? They have a new show there on Thursdays. They have a bi-weekly live podcast there every second Wednesday. And like all those shows, I want them all to be successful, and I want the Moon to grow and be it, like, cause like my things are comedy and podcasting, right? And all the other stuff too. But like Trish's thing is the Moon, and wants to like build that. And like, she has helped me.
The Moon is sick.
It is. It's the fucking best, right? And like, but like that, and she has like such a deep passion, like on the same level of like how we talk. Like if you and Trish get into a conversation about like show running and like what comedy is, like you'll see it instantly of like how bad it's. So like, I want to help that too, right? Like I might not have, you know, like the Wednesdays, the Thursdays, the Sundays I'm a little bit more involved in, but like they're almost, but I want those to grow. Like that's part of my growth too. I want to support the people that have supported me, the people like I am ride or fucking die. And I'm so willing to be ride or die for you if you'll give it back to me. But like, I also have a wild level of expectations of what that is. If I'm going to give that to you, I expect a lot back. And like, she has done way more for me than I can ever do for her. Right. And like in that, I will run through walls. I will do everything in my power to make the Moon the coolest place ever. And like, it already is. It's just like, dude, to spread the word more. So it's a better way, just to make people aware of what a cool thing exists in their backyard. Right. Same with the fucking comic strip. They've been so good to me, and I've done so many things, give me so many opportunities too. And like, we have this best club in North America. Well, best club, top 10 in North America. I'm going to say that. I go out on a limb there. It's fucking amazing. Right. And like, there's such an amazing family that runs it. The staff are just been there forever, and they're all such good people. I want to help them. I want to like, yeah, I guess like the biggest thing I want is to be able to like be the person I want to be, so that I can help the people I want to help. Oh, right. Like that's the long and short of it at the very end of the day. And like, there's a lot of selfish aspects to it, because I love how I'm going to do that is through things I love, like podcasting and stand up and working with cool people and having good conversations. Like, so it is selfish, but like what articulates it underneath, I think, is just love and like wanting to spread that. And that's always been who I am. And I think people can question that, because I think that just brings out insecurities in other people when they come from maybe a bit more selfish of a place. And I'm a very selfish guy, don't get me wrong, but yeah, I think that's like the true underpinning of what makes me do, what makes me tick.
That's unreal, bro. And it's exciting. It's exciting to see, because you know, there's something about making moves, and then there's something about making purpose-driven moves. You know, and it's because there is the, and we talked about this again at the beginning too, where it's like when you're doing a purpose-driven move, you're committed to it, you're invested into it. It's gonna hurt if it's you know,
damn straight.
And it's like that emotional risk is you know, worth more than everything else, like, you know, because the payoff is greater than anything. You know, some people will never even get the opportunity to experience what that is, you know, where it's
for sure.
Yeah, there's financial risk, there's time invested, but this is something that I care so much about that I'm willing to die on stage, to humiliate myself time and time again, that I'm willing to fail for no one to come, for so that everyone will come, you know, so that I can not only light this room up, I can light this room up all night.
Yeah.
You know, and everyone here, it's you know, it's like you're willing to be the flame in a dark room so that everyone can eventually be lit up. You know, and it's like once everyone's lit up, it's like. That's part time.
Yeah,
like,
it's like being the first one to jump on the dance floor. It sucks. It's never the funnest thing, but like if you just don't give a shit, you get out there, you're gonna make some pretty fucking sick magic happen. If it's me jumping on the dance floor, I should say. Maybe not everybody, but I like to dominate a dance floor myself.
Damn.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not much of a dancer.
No, oh, dude.
I gotta be intoxicated.
Yeah.
To be,
Here's
I
the
don't
thing.
drink very much.
I growing up, I used to love to dance. Like we danced around the house. Like me and my sister would dance all the time. We're just like dancing was part of it, but I would. In public, I had to be hammered, right? Like, so insecure about it. Like, but I love to dance, but like it took a lot of me. But I went on a trip to Europe when I was 23 for a month, and I didn't know anybody. I went on like a solo trip, went on like a Kentucky tour. So you meet up with like a big group. So you have like a group with you, but like you don't know them, like especially at the start. And I just started dancing and like got over it and just like kind of like it changed me as a person. And like, do you ever listen to Aubrey Marcus?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I was like, wait, who the fuck?
Yeah. He always talks about like ecstatic dance therapy and like how much it impacted and like just that connection we have. Because like to be a good dancer, all you have to do is not be insecure about like how you look, right? As long as you don't give a fuck, it doesn't matter what you're doing. If you have like moves and stuff, like that's better. But like what it is of like what you see of a bad dancer is just someone that's too in their head about what they're doing, and you can see it. They become like the fucking Elaine from Seinfeld because they're thinking about like everything they're doing, right? Yeah. We always call my mom Elaine from Seinfeld when she dances. That's why I went to her. Shots fired. But like going through that, like it changed me as a person of just like being okay. And like then like at the start of the trip, like everyone was dancing, we'd have fun, and like I'd have to drink a little bit more, but then like we'd go to a bar like before we'd even like start dancing. I'd be the first one to dance and like bring everyone out there, and I got to fall in love with that, and like it changed me. And now I still have a little bit of I'm still definitely more willing to dance if I have some more drinks, but it like definitely gave me a new outlook. And like I found like I couldn't believe how much such a stupid little thing like being willing to dance, but it's such like a deep-seated like fear that like that is underneath it, that like maybe not solving it, but like doing some serious work on that. Yeah, it was wild how much different I felt after that with like such a weirdly disconnected thing that most people think like, what does dancing have to do with your life? It's like, damn, it's everything, right? It's just it's connection to your body, it's connection to like not giving a fuck and just like send it. And now I love to dance. I'm a demon, right? Like definitely like give me some drinks, I'll be more of a demon, but like I'll go out there, I'm always dancing. I'm dancing around, I'm dancing at comedy shows. I love to dance, man. I'm always busting a move.
That is I've never been. My sister was a dancer, and I because I know music so well. Yeah, and I'm so in awe of that. Like a good, or even like someone who's really good at yoga, for instance.
Yeah.
Like someone who has that kind of mastery over their body, and it's just like I'm so aware of, and it's, I mean, comparison is the thief of joy. Yeah, but it's like I am so aware of my lack of masterful movement. And I'm like, bro, you know, maybe it'll be something eventually I'll get more into.
Me and you just gotta go hit the club. I'll get you out there.
I haven't been to the club.
Yeah, I mean, I went to the club for the first time like in years. I went to a bachelor party down in Scottsdale. But that's the thing of like going there, and it was so funny because like you get this whole table and it's so cool, and we're with a bunch of fucking dude bros, and they're all like sitting up on the back of the chair just like scoping chicks, and I'm just like outside of a table just fucking going just like dancing by myself, not giving a fuck, right? But it was so funny because like some guys would like bring up girls that like obviously, I don't know, I shouldn't say what their intention, but in my head I'm like, oh, like I don't even care, they just want the bottle service, they just want drinks, like whatever, I'm not even. But then they're like, oh, you're the best, like I love you. I'm like, yeah, I love me too, I'm just fucking vibing, right? Like just totally blew them off. And then they're like, no, like I actually started talking to them. I got like an Instagram with this like unbelievably gorgeous girl who was like, why are you even talking to me? Like this is just so weird. But I didn't give a fuck. I'm just like, I'm just vibing, I'm just dancing, this is awesome, right?
It's crazy.
Yeah. But it was cool. Yeah. It was cool. I'm still looking at it. I was like, damn, did that happen? That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Even when you're telling the story on your go check it out on his podcast.
Fuck yeah.
It's funny when you're talking about getting bottle service, you're like, you get a girl with lingerie.
I didn't know that was part of it. I've never been there.
I was like, you can really tell this guy's never had bottle service.
100%. The whole experience was foreign to me. Yeah.
Bro, I was like, that's the funny, because I remember the first time, you know, I remember when I turned 18, we played basketball and stuff, especially with older. So by the time me and my brother were 18, a lot of our friends were already adults, you know? So we had a bunch of people who came out and they got bottle service. And I was like, what the fuck? There's women with no clothes.
Yeah, what is happening?
There's just, you're paying how much for a bottle?
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't even imagine how they probably crazy now.
It was unbelievable. I think it was $6,000 for the table between 22 guys. So like, it's still crazy expensive, right? Like, and like the experience is cool. Like, yeah, the girl in the laundry, like whatever. I don't know. I've just never been like, I'm never like a strip club guy. It's like, I'm such an emotional connection person. It's like, I'm so worried that like, it takes me so much to even believe that girls like me or like attracted to me that like now there's a whole layer of like money in between. I will never believe you. This is not for me. Like, I could look at naked girls online. Like, even that doesn't do nothing for me, right? Like, if I don't really, well, not nothing. Let's be okay. Well,
I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying.
Yeah, but like comparatively, that it doesn't scratch the itch. Like, you know, a genuine connection. So it's just like, yeah, the girl in laundry, whatever, like not having to go get drinks, that was kind of cool. Having like a table where you could like chill and kind of like vibe, that was all right. But $6,000, fuck. Probably the only time I ever do that in my life, unless fucking the comedy Skrilla starts coming in, start taking the boys out. I don't know, but like it's not gonna be for me. I'd rather fucking rent an Airbnb. Like, that's the thing of like the bachelor party was so fun and going out and partying and stuff is always so. But like, if it was my bachelor party, I was like, yeah, same group of guys, awesome, but like we're not leaving this fucking Airbnb. We're partying here and we're just gonna get debaucherous and just fuck around with the boys. That's what I am. Like when I was in university, like I'd go out to the ranch and fucking Knoxville's and shit. Like the first year, but then second, third, and fourth year was just, I'm gonna convince as many people as possible to not go out and just go to the bar across the street to Duke's and just like party with just us. And it's like a house party. It's with people you know, and it's like that's what I like. Yeah. And I got to have years of that, of just like experiencing amazing nights at this place you love with like an amazing, like, I love the family that ran the establishment. They're the best. They just sold, breaks my heart. I think it has a new name. Oh, heartbreaking. R.I.P. Dukes. But like, that's my scene, right? Bottle service, not exactly. It was fun to got to dance, but that's the thing. Like, I think there was a dance where I just never hit it. I was just like dancing by the table. It's like, I'll party wherever, but like I didn't need all the rest of this. I just needed some fun friends, a couple of drinks, and let's party, right? Like, that's cool. Yeah, that's cool. Good learning lessons.
It is. It's like you're still willing to experience those things. You know, and that's what's up, my G.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
I'm gonna have fun no matter what we do. I'm gonna have a good time, right? It's just, if it was up to me, I would make that good time a very Nick-shaped good time, but like whatever, I can jump in and vibe. What are we doing?
That's right? Cool, bro. That's fuck it. It's cool to stay open like that.
Yeah. It's the only way.
Oh, fuck it. I love it, bro. Well, we're coming up on 3 hours here.
Hell yeah.
We'll have to do this.
Of course, anytime, again, dude. Anytime.
Again, this is these times go by so fast.
I know.
We just film in my brother's room, and I like to be
literally.
Shout out, and I haven't shouted him out in a while. This is Brandon's room. This is Brandon's camera. This is all Brandon's shit.
books.
Brandon's books.
Yeah.
A lot of them I recommended to him, I'll say.
Goddamn. Love it.
And so shout out to BP for constantly letting me use his fucking bedroom.
Hell yeah.
That's always the thing too. Once we will have a different setup eventually too, but it works pretty good. You know what I'm saying? But that being said, before we end with a couple of things, we're not going to end it right now, but as we start to wind this down, so this is coming out next week. So do you have anything you want to tell the people about? This guy's doing so many cool things.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that we talk about it before we end.
Yeah, the VonDub cast of the podcast. You can go back, follow like super in depth my life from like 2020, like June of 2020 till now. The last couple of months get a little foggy because I'm doing more comedy stuff, but like, that's my baby. That's what I've done. I've done amazing interviews with tons of people. Check out Jordan's episode. It was awesome.
Oh, really? It'd be really cool if you go back and listen to this. I should have said that at the beginning. Listen to that one first and then come to this one. But
either way, they'll both be good. You get to some of my favorite times of podcasts is going back in. Like when I found Rogan, I would listen to all the episodes that came out, but then I started going backwards, and you get to see the shit he's going through. But then you see like who he is and like piece of information he's learned, and you get to see him learn it, and you get to see him go back into places where he has more blind spots and is really uneducated on stuff, and you get to like see him become that person. Like that's super cool too, going backwards. Nothing wrong with going backwards.
So the
podcast, my show every Friday at the Moon, Trish's Asylum. It's from 8 to 10. It's like a book show with the best comics. There's giveaways. It's like lots of production value. It's a great time. You're always going to enjoy it. Then after that, about 10 o'clock, we start the Gen Pop open mic. We throw a bunch of funny comics on the stage on the couch with mics. All the comics that are in Edmonton from all the other shows will trickle in once they're done at the comic strip and Yuck Yucks and everything, or just guys that are in town. We get like, sometimes we'll get huge acts like guys that have, you know, some pretty big followings. So just come through and come hang out, do a set. And that runs until every comic that wants to do a set has done a set. And then we just, most of the audience has usually panned out by then, but like it's usually mostly comics. And then we just pull all the comics up to the front and the lighting, get a bunch of mics going, and it's just riffing, trying to be funny. It's just a room full of killers all trying to outshine each other, and it is the most magical time. It is the funnest thing. Like, it's so hard to explain to people because it's so different every time, and it's so nebulous, and wild shit happens there. Like, exactly, just with no rules, and like after a night of being silly, like just the shit we get up to, it is so funny. So that's every Friday. Come out to that. Cool. Come out to anything at the Moon. Just come check out the Moon. The Sunday show is amazing. Trish has been running it the last couple of months. She's absolutely just like putting on amazing lineups. I think, it's too bad this one's out next week because this Sunday show is just a stacked us line, but they're all good. Come out to the Sunday show. If you want like a really great comedy show that's going to be an experience, come out on a Friday, stay late, come for that. But if you just love weed and you just want to like come for like a super laid back comedy show where you can just get blazed out of your mind and just kind of like take in a comedy show and just be in a cool place, come to the Sunday show. It is deadly as fuck. And then keep an eye out. I'm going to be doing the podcast more. I'm going to probably have some live podcasts at the Moon. Come check that out. Tuesday night after the comic strip, we go to the Moon. We do like a comedy workshop where we work on jokes. People will try new stuff. It's like super cool if you actually love comedy, just to come like see behind the veil of like who all the comics are and like what we go through to like figure this stuff out and like be a part of it. It's super cool to see. And then just keep an eye on my social medias, like the Nick VonDub and the VonDub cast, because I got something we've been kind of hinting at. I have another really cool thing that's coming, and it's going to be awesome, and cannot wait for that. And as soon as that's out, I'll just have to come back on and talk about it. Yeah, I'll have to come back on and talk about it again.
Dog. I gotta make my way to. I follow you on social media, so I'll make sure that I stay posted. I gotta come to the Moon.
You gotta.
I haven't been.
You gotta come perform. I want you to jump on Gen Pop, dude. Drop a few bars, dude. I feel like that'd be deadly.
That could be fun, bro. Maybe I will come through. Actually, maybe the week this comes out, I'll come through.
Ooh, that'd be spicy.
Because this week I can't, just because I
have fair. Yeah, priorities, yeah.
But maybe I'll come through, bro.
Hell yeah, dude.
Especially because I've been wanting to get out there too.
Yeah,
I love the spot.
It's the best.
I love the show.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I went to the show, I was like, "What the fuck is this?"
Yeah.
I was like, "I'm in," And
I
haven't been to either show in a while, but I've been to the Friday night show. I've been to the Sunday night show several times.
Yeah.
I can't say enough good things about this place. Can't say enough good things about this guy, man.
Oh,
it's great host, great comedy.
Thanks, brother.
You got to check it out.
Hell yeah.
You know, you'll catch me there every once in a while. You know, I'll be rolling
Kicking
through.
it.
Especially once it's summertime. Jake comes out of a shell a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I'll come socialize.
You loosen up the toga a little bit.
Yeah, that's it, bro.
I love it.
And then one thing I always like to end on.
Yeah.
Sometimes it catches people off guard, but that's
ain't
cool.
catching me off guard.
I was like, you're gonna have several things locked and loaded.
Yeah. I'm gonna make this a 4-hour podcast.
I was like, bro, and this is why I was like, we're not ending it. I just have a couple things that I want to make sure we hit before we call it quits. And it's if you it's as simple as, what's something you want to tell the people?
What is something I want to tell the people?
You know,
something that's been on my mind a lot lately is just watching of like, and I've learned this lesson so many times in so many different ways, but just about how good it is to do the work on yourself, the shadow work, that kind of stuff. Like, it just, before you start doing it, it seems so scary and it seems so nebulous. Good things will come from it, but it's so hard to see. But like once you start and you start to see the amazing things that come out of it and how much better you are in your relationships with yourself, with your substances, with your people, your family, it just goes so far and it can be so scary. It's the scariest thing you can do. But like just seeing how much it can help you in those relationships, and then whatever you're pursuing, like watching comedy so intently now, you get to see so many different like talent levels and like work ethics and stuff. But the biggest thing holding everyone back is like how self-aware are they and how much work have they done on their own to get to those deeper things. And that's what holds you back. But like you can take that for music, you can take that for business, like whatever it is, it's going to help you in so many different ways. And there is nothing scarier in the world than going down and like sitting with yourself, doing a little bit of meditation, letting things get quiet and see what comes up. But there's an infinite amount of positivity underneath that, even though it's scary. And if you can just take those first couple steps to start asking those questions and articulating understanding who you are with the programming you have, and then being able, that's the first step to being who you want to be and like actually like putting the effort in on that. So that's what I would say is just, hey, look inside, do that work, get quiet sometimes and see how it takes you. And like hearing these words come out of myself, it's like, God damn, I need to do this. I need to get better on my meditation. I
was just, you know what? And this is why I thought I would, I didn't want to end it right after I asked, because usually I'll end the podcast. That would be like the last thing, but I knew you would say something. Yeah. That's why I was like, we're going to dwindle this down, but I know we'll have one more big thing to talk about. And one thing that sparked, honestly, motivational, because it's like, it's like, fuck yeah, do the, because it seems like almost everything we've talked about ultimately comes down to that.
100%. It all does.
And the question I have for you is, with that in mind, in mind, you are becoming the person that you want to be, and
slowly
we're looking at this from like, okay, this is who I want to be. What is a week? For most people it'd be like, what is a day? But it's like, because of the things that we do, it's every day is a little bit different, so so it's like, in an ideal sense, what is like, you're like, okay, these are all of the things I know I need to do in a week to be the person that I'm striving to be. And because I know you know the answer.
I know the answer. And the thing is, I know the answer, and that question sucks so bad because it's everything I've been battling lately. Of like, I know so much of what I need to do, and I'm so scared to finally take the step because I know it's going to be such a big change but it's sleeping. Because I'm up till 6 a.m. every night. I'm smoking too much. Yeah, getting better with weed, getting better with sleep, more consistent with workout, getting back into jiu-jitsu because I have such a passion for it. I love it so much, and like it's so healthy for me, and I need to do it. Getting back to podcasting more regularly, expanding the podcast and like taking it more serious to do more with it. Keep expanding the shows, keep doing shows, getting out on other shows, and like actually getting better at asking to be on shows and like getting booked. I need to work on that.
But like, okay, so let's break this down even more, because I like, because those things all still mean different allotments of time for different people.
Yeah.
So it's like, in an ideal sense, how much time are you committing? You're like, I'm doing 20 minutes of meditation every day. I'm doing 3 sessions of jiu-jitsu. I want to do a stand-up show, 2, I want some like...
Yeah, so I would say like just some sort of schedule for sleep.
Okay.
First off, right? I'd say a meditation every day, 20 minutes if I can get it. Less if not.
Even if it's 5.
Yeah. Okay. Jiu-jitsu every day would be good, but even like 5 days a week would be perfect, right? It's pretty aggressive. And just working out every day regardless, which I've usually, I still run quite a bit and stuff, like, so I haven't been doing nothing, but just
not where
I want it to be. Doing a stand-up, in a perfect world, I would do all those. I would do jiu-jitsu, sleep and stuff. I would do a podcast every day if I could, right? But maybe like more realistic is like 3 podcasts a week or something, right? Like saying every day, but if I had the infrastructure for it to be happening and I could like handle that, I would love to do it. Doing stand-up every night would be perfect, right? Whether that's my show or another show,
and
I would say.
When you say every night, do you straight up mean 7 days? Or do you mean
7 days a week.
Oh, okay.
If I could, for sure, right? And like, I'm sure you also got to look out for yourself and like especially right now where there's playoffs, like that's
There's
there's certain things that get in the way, right? Like and being cognizant of that and like try not to burn yourself out, but like you should be, especially where I am now, of like you need to be doing it every night. You need to, and like that's where, and that's the one thing that like of all these things I have been pretty good at. I just need to get better at like getting onto the shows, but like I'll go to 1 or 2 shows almost every night, even if I'm not on them, because you can learn so much just from watching and seeing how an audience pulled back and didn't pull back, and what a comedian did. How did the host do it? What are they doing? I learned so much, but I'm not actually on the stage, and you learn obviously more if you can get on the show too. But just going to them. Oh, my voice is going. Look at this perfect time right at the end. Yeah. As it starts to break, but like doing it as much as possible, and like that's probably of all those things I said, that's the closest one I am to doing right now. I'm so deep into it, and I am like, but I'm hanging my hat on that way too much. I'm almost like, hey, the rest of my life can fall to pieces
as long as I'm doing this one thing.
Exactly, which I know is again how my brain rationalizes. I know I need to quit, but like the solution to that is just to be the person I want to be, and that's tough because I haven't been giving myself, like I've been struggling with self-respect lately, because like I know I'm not the person I need to be to dignify and to demand the type of respect that I do demand when I am being my best person, like how I let people talk to me and how I let people treat me. And I feel myself just letting things that I never would stand for, but I know deep down that I'm not the guy I need to be, and like to do that, right? Like I'm living unhealthy. I'm not. How do you expect a level of respect from other people when you don't have it for yourself? And that's like my biggest thing I'm struggling with. And it's tough because I'm also doing all these amazing things. I'm trying to give myself flowers for I am on this crazy journey and stuff, but also give myself that kick in the ass. You need to be so much better, and you need to fix all these things and get on that. And then I know what will come of that. And like, I'm already on a really cool trajectory with the effort I'm putting in.
Absolutely.
But if I really dig in and can get healthy and respect for myself, what I'll be capable of at that point,
it will be astonishing.
It will be astonishing. And I know that, and that should be enough to pull you out of it. But I just
And that's so
there's always wrenches that get thrown at you, right? And like, it's so you're always going to find something to do, whether it's, oh, this comic was mean to me, or, you know, this girl broke my heart, or whatever it is, right? There's always something. And
not to downplay the hurt and, you know, you feel those ways because those things are significant too. You know?
For sure.
Those things hurt because they also are significant.
Yeah, and I love that about myself, that's a huge piece of myself that I love, of like how much I do feel things. And like, that's a double-edged sword of like, you get some amazing things out of it, but also you feel some pain. But I love that about myself. And for a long time, I feel like I didn't. And I would kind of be embarrassed about how much I felt stuff. And like, because I think growing up in a small town oil field, right, like everything's gay. Right, like that's just kind of the thing. I know that's not in vogue or whatever, but like that's kind of my experience of like what it was, right? Like
especially the time frame.
Exactly, back then, growing up, exactly, and like, but you just have programming. I know that it's silly and stuff, but like, it's just deep. It's just what you grew up with. So I'm always just so programmed, and I think comedy too. Everybody is so insecure and so scared to be vulnerable that I'm a very vulnerable guy. But every time you show that vulnerability, everyone jumps on it because nothing makes them more insecure, because that's like the majority, like 90% of them, that's their biggest battles. They can't be vulnerable because they're just dudes and they're young. And it's like, oh, you're a 21-year-old guy. How am I expecting you to be a vulnerable, fully functioning human? Absolutely. You're just not.
And especially because what you want is the approval of others right now. It's like you're doing this mostly because you want them to laugh at you. Because you want to be like, oh, this guy's fucking hilarious, you know? And it's like, bruh, there's so much. Yeah, absolutely. Bro.
Yeah, it's a bit of a mind fuck, but I love it. It's a mind fuck, but I wouldn't change it for the world. I'm absolutely like it's tough to be going through so much at all times. There's almost always something dragging you down and stuff, but I've never been like this is one of the happiest I've ever been. And I know I'm operating of like at like such a low capacity, and I could be so much happier and so much more. But like, even still, compared to how I was a couple years ago when I was like running that huge company and stressed and doing this, and just like how miserable I was back then, I'm so happy now. Right? Comparatively. Yeah. Like it's almost because like, it's not perfect. It's easy to just tell yourself of like, oh, but like this is wrong. But it's like, just take a moment and be like, yeah, but like, now zoom out a little bit and look at your whole life and like where you've been at different points and how low you've been. You're doing pretty great. Like, you're pretty happy right now, and you're loving what you're doing. You're passionate. You have things you're excited about. Like, lean into that. And then when you do whatever moment flips that switch, I know that'll happen. I've done it before in my life where I've buckled down and really attacked with full force. And I know I can do that again. I know I'm going to do that at that point. And when that point comes, but until then, why not enjoy the shit? Why beat yourself up? Yeah, you know, you could be doing better. You know, you could be solving those things, but like at a certain point, it doesn't help you just to beat yourself up over it and stuff. Like either make the change or don't worry or enjoy what you're doing. And that's kind of the point I'm in of like, I know the change is coming. I know it's overdue, but I feel like almost in the same way of like, you'll never find that person you want to be until you become okay with being by yourself.
Oh,
and like, okay, yeah, it's almost like that change will never come until I'm just like become okay with the fact that of like what I'm doing, which again is also another layer. Everything was with me is also an excuse.
Yeah.
Everything that I tell, it's all a rationalization. But yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna choose to live with that one.
I love it, bro. I love it. And you know what? Even when you were saying all of that, you know, another reason I think I did that stint of not performing is because I'm so okay with being with myself.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I'm all right with just me most of the time. You know, of course, there's days where you're in your head and it's like, it's not always fun to be just with yourself either, you know, especially if you're beating yourself up. Then it's a whole
100%.
But it's like, it's something crazy to be happy with who you are, where you're at and what you're trying to do, you know, to summarize all of that.
Yeah.
And it's like, it makes me happy to know that you're happier than you were in the past.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Through the action of your own.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
That's
a good point.
Because it's like, yeah, some people get gifted things and they're in better positions than they were before.
And I definitely have, yeah.
And that's beautiful too. Yeah. But it's like you're happy because of the work in the failures and the victories and the hardship in the constant pursuit of something pushing you forward, you know, and that's always so fun to stress too, because some people just never find that thing that can drag them. That's like, bruh, where's your light at the end of the tunnel? Yeah. It's like your life is what, and especially because I feel like you know, so many comments and stuff on YouTube, you know, you really get to see what people think. You know, obviously you get the trolls and stuff, but just like, man, it's a lot of people are self-deprecating to themselves. Like, damn, you're in a bad place if you're willing to even just write some of these things on YouTube comments. It's like, damn, man, you're
living in some darkness.
It's like, wow, bro. It's like you really don't have that thing. You're not even contemplating about a thing that might, you know, you got no hope. And I'm just like, man, it's like I might not be the place where I want to be, and I never will, because there will always be something bigger to it, you know. But it's like, damn, that in itself makes me happy. Yeah, you know, it's like that. It's like, oh, I don't know what I will want in 20 years, but I know I will still want something else, you know, and something meaningful. Yeah, like, you know, it's like I don't want another fucking computer or whatever, the car or you know, those aren't the things that motivate me anymore. But it's like, oh, maybe I will try to do 300 shows this year, or because that was also another thing I tried to do, was as many shows as I could in 1 year, and that didn't work.
That's a recipe for burnout right there.
That didn't work out too well for me. But it's like, you know, I've been on both ends of the spectrum, where it's like not performing at all, trying to perform all the time, constantly. But it's like, you know, it's like when you become purpose driven, it's another beast of things, you know. When you're showing up, when you're trying to show up as your best to who you know you can be at your finest, it's just great things come from that.
100%, dude.
Damn, I think that's a good place.
I was thinking the same thing, man. I was like, damn, I think you wrapped that up nice.
Well, bro, thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me, dude. I was so excited for this.
This is Canada's greatest podcaster. We got him here for the 1 year. When I did.
Congratulations, by the way. That's awesome, man. Yeah. Hell yeah. Fuck that in.
When I set out to do the podcast, I was like, so many people told me, bro, just fucking, you know, you got some stories, just try. Yeah. And so I was like, okay, what the, all right, I'll get, but I'm committing to a year. I'm doing 1 year. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it for a year. Yeah. And, you know, it's cool because it has been something that has grown, and people tune in every Wednesday, and, you know, people want to be on it, and I enjoy it, which is, you know, I can be my authentic self. have these conversations.
It's a cool outlet, eh?
Oh, it's so dope, man. And it's like, thank you for closing out the first season of
Thanks for
Moment
having
with
me,
Jay.
dude.
There will be a season 2 that we are rolling out
Season
soon
2.
too, which is I'm excited.
I'm gonna make multiple appearances in season 2.
Oh, let's go!
Yeah.
And I will make multiple appearances at the moon.
Fucking right. And on the VonDub cast. We got to do the yeah. Gotta fire that back up.
Let's go, dog. This is so much fun. I'll put all the links to your Instagram, your podcast,
Appreciate it.
all in the description, so it'll be easy. Just go click follow, especially if you're in Edmonton. But if you're anywhere, he's doing a lot of really cool things and I know a lot of y'all who listen are fans of comics, of comedy, because I'm a huge fan of comedy. I do nothing but talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
I love it's one of my
Same.
favorite art forms. And this is someone who's doing something really cool in Edmonton, and it's worth, if you see his name on anything, it's worth showing up.
Thank you.
Promise you're gonna have a good time.
I concur.
I like, it's for sure. I've never seen this guy not killing it,
It happens. Rarely though. Rarely. Yeah.
You know he's good because he's honest.
Yeah.
I think that's coming up on 3.5 hours. I think, is there anything else you want to say to the people?
Just titties. That's it. That's all I wanted to say. Yeah.
And that's where we're gonna end it. I hope you've had a beautiful day and have a beautiful week. More love, more success. This has been A Moment with Jay.